A sudden alarm on the English Channel
Mayday, mayday! This is the MSC Napoli.
leaves 26 men in desperate need of a daring rescue.
Let's go!
If you lose the engine room on a ship, you've lost the ship.
Abandoned ship!
In my head, I started freaking out, and I started to think, I'm not sure anybody can save us.
The waves and the upwelling was massive, and the wind was horrific. I might never make that life raft.
Why did a state-of-the-art ship split apart?
It's a very rare occurrence. Never really seen an incident like it.
And can an answer be found
There's not much margin for error here.
before disaster strikes again? It's a stormy winter day on the English Channel.
Good afternoon.
The container ship MSC Napoli is sailing west, loaded with more than 2,300 shipping containers, filled with everything from camcorders to dinnerware to auto parts.
Status report, please.
Valentin Vilev is in command.
Maintaining course and speed, Captain. And I've got the latest Met report.
A veteran mariner, he served as master on the massive cargo ship for 5 years.
They're very large ships. Walk one end to the other on the Napoli would take probably 10 minutes.
Today, the captain's facing a challenge. The ship is in gale force winds and heavy seas.
Welcome to January in the North Atlantic, eh, cadets?
Happy to be here in any weather, sir.
Forbes Duthie is on board as a deck cadet, trying to learn the complex operation of these ships.
Here, let me show you.
You just tend to fit into the routine of the people who are already on board, the main ship's crew. They're the ones to lead you and train you. So you really pay attention to what they're doing.
The Napoli is on its way from Antwerp, Belgium, to the port of Sines in Portugal.
Come to port, please. To 220 degrees.
Coming to port, 220 degrees.
But Captain Vilev is running behind. It could be hard to make up the time. At 275 meters, the ship is the length of 2.5 football fields. But despite its size, plowing through 9-meter waves at high speed could damage the ship and its cargo containers. Ken Potter is a marine safety consultant with decades of experience at sea. He knows what the captain was facing.
When the wind comes around to the side of a container ship, they tend to roll. And a lot of the weight of those containers is up high, so they tend to roll more and deeper.
The captain needs to slow down to keep the ship and its cargo safe.
Chief.
Engine room.
This is the captain. Reduce engine speed now to 71 RPM.
Got it, Captain.
As Duthie's shift ends, the pitch and roll of the ship is increasing. He'll have to rest amid the rough motion that mariners learn to endure at sea.
You could tell there was a bit of weather outside, but she was rolling relatively easily, so we had a great sleep.
By the next morning, the ship's motion is getting more violent.
When you're going into a head sea, you're pounding or slamming. It's like a hammer coming down, slamming into the sea.
Around 10 o'clock in the morning, I remember hearing a large bang.
Damn it! We've got flooding in the engine room. Get down there and take a look at what's going on.
A pipe from one of the seawater pumps has torn open. It's a dangerous problem. If the flooding continues, the engine could shut down, leaving the Napoli helpless.
If that happens when you're in heavy weather conditions, you don't have control of your ship anymore. And the ship could broach, which means turn sideways and start to capsize.
In his cabin, all Duthie knows is that the ship is still enduring the storm.
It was at that time of morning that I really had to start getting myself ready for going up to the bridge and attending my watch. And when I was in the shower, the dynamic motion of the vessel, it just seemed like out of control. I was being thrown around. Alarm bells started to go off in my head. A huge ship like this shouldn't be moving in this way.
In the engine room, the third engineer works desperately to close the cutoff valve. But it doesn't fix the problem. The engine room is filling with water.
You know, his immediate reaction is going to be, how could this possibly happen?
Bridge.
Captain.
We're in serious trouble down here. The engine room is
Flooding.
We have to shut down the engines.
Understood.
If you lose the engine room on a ship, you've lost the ship.
It's every captain's worst nightmare. Graydon Halge is a former container ship captain. He knows the gravity of this situation.
If you don't have power, then you're at the mercy of the sea. The last thing you want in bad weather.
In the space of a few minutes, the ship's motion almost became like it was out of control. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get myself into my work clothing and go up to the bridge.
The hallway is littered with bags from the crew's immersion suits. Suits they wear if they have to abandon ship. And they're empty.
I was shocked by what appeared in front of me. The whole alleyway was just strewn with these immersion suit bags, which is not a normal sight, I think, on any ship in the world.
Go to the provisions locker, grab as much bottled water as you can.
I knew as soon as I looked at those guys, this is not a normal drill. You don't put on your immersion suit for a normal drill.
The cadets. Oh my God. Go get the other cadet. Go! Go!
The chief officer at the time looked at me with these huge eyes and he was like, the cadets. Oh my God. Go and get your friend. Go and get your friend.
Duthie hurries to help make sure everyone is accounted for.
Nick!
I reached Nick's cabin and I started banging on the door.
Nick! You've got to wake up! Get your suits on, we gotta go to the bridge. What's the matter? Hell if I know, let's go now!
The Napoli is crippled and taking on water 80 kilometers from the nearest land. Out of options, the captain puts out a final distress call.
Mayday, mayday! This is the MSC Napoli. We are making our way to the lifeboats.
I was like, this can't be real. This is crazy. This ship is huge. How could this happen?
The crew of the MSC Napoli is trapped in a deadly emergency. Outside the bridge, the chief engineer shows Deck Cadet Forbes Duthie the cause: a massive vertical crack in the ship's hull.
You could see there was a huge hole there. And in my head, I started freaking out. All sorts of emotions started going through my mind.
When a ship breaks in two, one or both sections capsize. So before the ship actually separated into two pieces, the captain had to get his crew off.
Abandon ship!
As soon as the captain said, abandon ship, it was like a train. Everyone just started going towards the lifeboat station.
Abandoning a ship is never easy. And in the conditions they were in, it was even more challenging.
I just couldn't believe it. This was going to happen.
All 26 Napoli crew members are crammed into a capsule-like lifeboat. It will keep them alive in the violent seas, but it's going to be a rough ride. Adrift on the threshold of the North Atlantic, the nearest help is nearly 100 kilometers away at the Royal Navy Air Station Culdrose in southern England. Royal Navy rescue diver Jay O'Donnell was there that day.
I was the only diver on the squadron for that day, and we're a bit concerned because there's something bubbling up on the radio. And then the alarm went. Get airborne. There's 26 people in the water.
O'Donnell knows the stormy weather is going to make this a tough rescue.
And he could not believe the weather. He could look out the window and it was getting worse and worse. I've never seen the sea so angry in my life.
This is Captain Valev of the MSC Napoli. We've abandoned ship. We are in a lifeboat in the channel. Do you copy?
You felt like you were inside a washing machine. I mean, you were being thrown about. Because it's so well sealed inside as well, the temperature, it rises quite quickly. You felt like you were in a sauna, if not worse.
To be in a lifeboat with that many other people in confined conditions, it's probably the most horrendous experience you're going to have. It's almost guaranteed that every person on the lifeboat will be seasick.
This is Captain Valev of the MSC Napoli. Do you copy?
There's a portable VHF radio, and we tried using that to contact, but for some reason that just didn't work. And I started to think, I'm not sure anybody can save us. But then you could hear something that seemed really far away, but it sounded like it was a helicopter.
Royal Navy Search and Rescue have spotted the lifeboat, but Jay O'Donnell knows finding it is only the first step.
The waves and the upwelling was massive, and the wind was horrific. It was 70 knots steady. And I just thought I might never make that life raft. It was just getting thrown around.
Wearing a harness secured to a lifeline, O'Donnell is lowered toward the lifeboat. It's rising and falling in surging 12-meter waves.
I actually got in the water at one point, swimming towards it, thinking he's just going to pay the cable out so I can get to it. And the next minute, I'm swimming in absolute midair.
Inside the lifeboat, the crew can only wait and hope.
We weren't in there just for 5 minutes. That was approximately 3 hours we were in that lifeboat for, and it seemed like weeks.
But Jay O'Donnell is nearly there. Balancing carefully on the outside, he opens the door and greets what he thinks will be a French-speaking crew.
Bonjour! Ça va?
I think maybe he was told it was a French vessel.
It was horrible in there. They were seasick, and they were desperate to get out of that situation. And you know, you could see the fear in their eyes. They, you know, I don't think they thought they were being rescued.
Anybody hurt?
Quite quickly, he understood we were actually English speaking, all of us. And he reassured us. He says, we're going to get you all off safely.
O'Donnell's next task is to get everyone up to safety as fast as he can. The chopper has limited fuel,
Okay, you!
so time is of the essence.
I'm gonna hook you up to the harness!
I tried to give them some sort of a safety brief, And I said, this is what you need to do. Arms down by side, on your knees, put the rescue strap on them, and then give them a big nod to say, you're ready to go.
Okay, up!
There was literally enough space for me to kneel and a tiny other square to get one person off at a time.
Ready?
One by one, he helps the survivors out of the storm-tossed lifeboat and onto the cable that will winch them to safety. Then he returns for the next survivor.
Okay, come on, next one, let's go!
It was kind of key to make it quick and safe.
Up to the strap, come on!
I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. But yet, there was so much relief. I'm safe now.
Okay, come on!
I'm going to be going into that helicopter and I'm okay. And it was just a phenomenal experience.
Okay, next one, let's go!
After 90 tense minutes, Jay O'Donnell manages to hoist the final survivor to safety.
Oh, God. That feeling, it's like, really exhilarated feeling. We did it.
The rescue mission to get us out of that catastrophic situation, that's an amazing job. I can't believe someone would risk their life for others like that.
The entire crew is safely ashore. But the Napoli is stranded near the western end of the English Channel, taking on water through the crack in its hull. Salvage experts warn authorities the Napoli could be a ticking environmental time bomb.
She was carrying 4,000 cubic meters of heavy fuel oil. That's a substance like tar. Don't think of it as oil. It really is horrible.
At the time, Robin Middleton was the UK SOS rep, the Secretary of State's representative for maritime salvage and intervention. His task: safeguard life and the environment for the British government.
When the Napoli incident occurred, I was due to retire. So you can imagine it took me a little by surprise.
Middleton knows what's at risk. Just 5 years before, an oil tanker sank and spilled its contents, with catastrophic results.
We'd had the Prestige, which had spilled oil all over the beaches of Spain. Napoli would have put oil all over the beaches of the United Kingdom.
To avoid a similar disaster, the team wants to tow the crippled Napoli to a sheltered area where they can start to unload the hazardous contents. But there's a danger. The cracked ship might not be strong enough to survive being towed through the rough channel waters.
All right, let's get the structure guys in and have a look.
An international team of salvage experts is asked to weigh in.
With not much more to go on than just a photograph of what looked like the crack down the side of the hull.
Naval architect Chris Earle was a consultant on the case.
We had to sort of make a bit of a judgment call to work out whether it was safe to try and tow it or not.
If the ship sinks in deep water, it could make cleanup even harder.
Thanks for your help.
So risking the tow seems like the best option. The question now is, where?
We had to take it somewhere where it could be sheltered, somewhere close to shore or a port or a harbour.
He needs to watch out for powerful currents, and making for the British coast looks safer than heading to France. He zeroes in on several possible destinations along the UK side of the channel.
Dragging a broad on to the sea and the wind and the weather would almost certainly cause it to break up.
It's a difficult decision he's got to make, and he hasn't got the luxury of time to try and make that call.
It's got to be Portland. Show me the route to Portland.
Middleton has fixed on Portland, a former naval station on Britain's south coast that's sheltered from the open sea. As the tow gets underway, a different branch of the government is already trying to work out what caused the disaster. Tony Brown was a principal inspector with Britain's Marine Accident Investigation Branch.
At the time, it was still an ongoing abandonment, and what we didn't know was what sort of failure it was. So those initial stages was all very much a case of trying to get as much evidence together as we can.
Something tore the Napoli apart. The question is, what was it?
Thank you for coming. Please take a seat.
Happy to help.
With the Napoli still being towed to shore, investigators turn to their best available source of information.
What do you want to know?
The crew who survived the disaster.
I want you to tell us what happened.
Well, we had an engine room flooding alarm.
Memory fades, so when it comes to eyewitnesses, it is better to get there sooner rather than later.
Damn it! We've got flooding in the engine room. Get down there and take a look at what's going on.
The pipe separated like this.
All right.
The third engineer had a front row seat to the catastrophe, and he adds a curious detail about the flooding.
And there was this wall of oily water.
The water was thick with oil.
This wall of water that the engineer described, that was really important for us at that stage. That gave us a really good picture of what had happened.
Look at this. We have cracking here.
And oily water means we have a failure under the engine room.
It's a critical lead. It tells them the hull failed at what should be the strongest part of the ship's skeleton. The ship's keel runs along the entire centerline of the bottom and helps support the structure of the vessel. A failure here is almost unheard of.
It's a very rare occurrence. Container ships very, very rarely have any sort of structural failure of that magnitude.
A failure like this means whatever went wrong must have involved unusually powerful forces. Investigators wonder if the storm was extreme enough to explain it. The Napoli was sailing in Category 11 winds, a violent storm just one step short of a hurricane.
The wave height was up to 9 meters, so it was a pretty rough seas. They're not ones that would have been comfortable by any means.
But it's not the weather on its own that catches the investigators' attention.
I nearly fell over in the shower.
Wow.
It was like I was inside of a washing machine.
The account of one of the officers having difficulty standing up in the shower and the failure being preceded by several quite strong strikes of waves kind of gave us cause for concern. When a ship's heading into large waves, it can experience a phenomenon called slamming.
Slamming happens when the bow drops into oncoming waves, and the powerful impacts reverberate through the hull.
That sends a judder all the way through the ship, so you can really feel it.
The juddering vibrations can cause major stress to the hull. But the captain was an experienced seaman.
Chief.
Engine room.
This is the captain.
Reduce engine speed now to 71 RPM.
Got it, Captain.
He adjusted his speed and never felt any sign the ship was in danger.
If you take the analogy of speed bumps in the road, you drive over speed bumps at 40 miles an hour, you're going to damage your car. So the master had slowed down.
The slamming is one more sign the ship was enduring a rough voyage. But there's no indication it was enough to tear the ship apart.
Although the vessel was pounding, but the bow was pounding into the waves, and although there would have been vibration felt in this situation, may have seemed relatively safe. That was just a bit of a dead end for us.
It's starting to look like the only way to find out what tore the Napoli apart is to get a look at the hull.
I'd really love to get a look at that ship.
But the Napoli's 48-hour, 300-kilometer journey to Portland has hit a roadblock with 60 kilometers left to the finish line.
At 26 minutes past 7, a call from the salvage master to say, the cracks are opening, she's taken on the water, she's sinking.
The Napoli is sinking fast, and with an environmental catastrophe looming, the mystery of why it broke up may have to wait.
Napoli's in trouble.
Robin Middleton is back in the hot seat. He's just received word the Napoli is too damaged to reach its emergency beaching site at Portland. If it sinks, it could release a massive oil spill far offshore, where it's difficult to contain. He's got to get the ship to shore.
It's got to be Branscombe.
And that means finding somewhere to run it aground.
Once an accident happens, the clock can never be wound back. That just doesn't happen. So I'd planned out for what the worst case could be.
Middleton is forced to make a difficult choice. Branscombe Beach in Lime Bay. It's close by, but it's also a United Nations Environmental Heritage Site. Hardly the ideal location to ground a ship filled with oil. On January 20th, 2007, 3 days after the Napoli's crew abandoned ship, it successfully beached less than a mile from shore.
It was a tough decision because I had effectively put this thing ashore in one of the most environmentally protected and vulnerable areas of the United Kingdom.
Lime Bay resident and Coast Guard volunteer Roger Hoare is sent to get eyes on the unfolding situation.
Never before in my time had I ever seen anything so big, so close to the coast in this position. Quite bizarre, surreal.
Any spilled oil will float to the surface, so crews quickly surround the wreck with more than half a mile of containment booms to keep it from reaching shore or escaping into the channel.
If it's not protected properly, when an incident like the Napoli comes along, it can tip it over the edge from being a disaster to a real ecological catastrophe.
Now, leaking oil could actually be removed from the sea, literally pumped into containers and recovered in that way. And they were very effective at it too in the end.
Robin Middleton's plan to prevent a catastrophic oil spill has succeeded. But just as one crisis is brought under control, another one is looming. The beached vessel begins listing in the rough seas, throwing more than 100 containers overboard. Some sink, but others drift off in one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world.
They were either just above the surface of the sea or just below.
At the time, Mark Rodaway was in charge of the nearby Coast Guard station.
And now these 40-foot steel containers full of water and goods were a real hazard to shipping. And one of our primary objectives was to start predicting how they would float or where they would drift to, and then start putting warnings out to other shipping going up and down the English Channel.
Nearly 60 containers wash ashore on Branscombe, attracting hundreds of scavengers. The story quickly becomes a media sensation.
It took us by complete surprise that so many people could get here so quickly.
People from far and wide started to head to those beaches, and it really was a whiskey galore, come on down and look what's on the beach.
They break into the containers to grab whatever they can and carry it up the cliffs.
There was people walking off the beach with BMW steering wheels. There was a lot of empty wine barrels that were on board. And I believe if you rolled a barrel into a field, you could get £10 a barrel, I believe.
There was a consignment of nappies that had broken open. Now, my understanding of nappies are that they absorb water, and these ones had been in the English Channel. So quite what the attraction was, I'm not sure.
There was motorbikes as well. I think there were 6 with keys, ignition keys in them, so they soon disappeared.
Under UK salvage law, scavengers have to return found items to the rightful owners if a claim is made. But enforcing it is a tall order.
We were deployed on the beaches to hand out receiver of wreck forms that people had to sign, fill in and post back to the powers that be. But I remember handing one to a certain gentleman who tore it off in front of me. It's fine, sir, carry on.
Robin Middleton's strategy has limited the environmental damage, but resulted in some very public chaos.
Everybody, I think, in the operation felt that I would be relieved or removed for doing this.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really big news story. It's not very often you have a large vessel in coastal waters around the UK. It was riveting viewing for everybody.
Thanks to the looting, there is now a public spotlight on the investigation into the Napoli disaster.
It's a serious accident and people want to find out what's being done about it. So we had to get something moving fairly quickly. We needed results.
With the Napoli beached on the south coast of England, French and Dutch salvage operators are finally able to secure the ship, and investigators are allowed to carefully make their way through the wreck.
We were itching to get on board so we can actually get the evidence we need from the vessel.
Oh, watch your step. Watch your step.
But we have to liaise with the salvors to negotiate when it's safe for accident investigators to actually go on board a vessel that is at risk.
Some of the oil had leaked from some of the tanks or some of the machinery, so there was a coating of oil all over. She was lying at a funny angle, so everything was perilously slippy. It was a very, very strange situation to be going into.
They're on the hunt for anything that might point them to the cause of the disaster.
Evidence collection is a priority.
They note the condition of the vessel and gather what they can.
Ah, there it is.
Including the loading computer.
We needed to investigate the cargo that was being carried at the time, the weight of the cargo, the distribution of the cargo.
This one's wrong.
The loading computer helps them compare the weight that was declared in the paperwork with the actual weight on board.
This one.
Distributed improperly, overweight containers can put a potentially devastating strain on the hull.
And you know something?
What they find is troubling. Of nearly 700 containers stored on deck, at least 20% were overweight by 3 tons or more, and more than 50 were in the wrong place.
If you don't know the weight of a container, it's very difficult to actually load a ship safely. There's not much margin for error here.
The investigators calculate the extra weight pushed the ship to nearly 99% of its maximum seagoing capacity.
Pretty close to that limit.
The hull didn't have much safety margin left, but something else must have tipped it over the edge.
What else was missing? What was that little something which just tipped her from being acceptable and happily sailing to just going past that point of failure?
Investigators scour Napoli's operational history and discover a possible explanation. This isn't its first major accident.
Yeah. She ran aground 6 years ago at full speed.
Full speed.
In April 2001, the MSC Napoli, then known as the Normandy, ran aground in the Straits of Malacca.
We were quite concerned as could there have been something in that accident that's affected the structural integrity of the ship.
But a closer look shows the theory doesn't hold up.
that the damage previously from the grounding had been very much at the bow end of the vessel. There's no way it could have had any knock-on effects to the stern.
The investigation is at a standstill. A close-up look at the crack in the Napoli's hull might help. But an underwater survey is the closest they can get.
Diver, we have your signal. Please proceed.
If they can capture photographs of the damaged metal, it might tell them what went wrong.
We're all getting very impatient by this time. We're all desperate to try and find a little bit more information. So the hope was that by sending an ROV and divers down, we might be able to get a better view of the damage.
The challenges to an investigator really lie in being methodical, of being patient and looking at every bit of information and just not giving up.
Diver, move to your left, please.
But it's just one more disappointment.
Can't see a damn thing.
We spent all day desperately trying different ways to get some footage of the hull. But the silt and the sand and the debris around, visibility was absolutely dreadful.
This is pointless.
Indeed.
Just off the coast, the Napoli can't be repaired. And steps are taken to prepare the ship for its removal. Crews pump the water from its hull and then blow it in half with a series of powerful explosions.
The thing to do was to actually separate the bow from the stern of the vessel.
With the ship now in pieces, it's easier to dispose of. The stern is scrapped at the beach, while the bow is towed to a shipyard in Belfast, where it too is dismantled.
She was recycled at a recycling facility at Harland and Wolff, right next to where the Titanic was built.
The ship is gone, but the mystery of what wrecked it remains. At a loss, the investigators are forced to consider a troubling possibility.
It's got to be something with the design.
If the ship had a design flaw, it might have remained hidden until the conditions were right to trigger it. They need to study every detail of how the hull was built.
We did obtain a copy of the design drawings, and we looked to see if Napoli had any potential weaknesses.
Look, our crack is here. Right under the engine room.
Right.
Right where the framing changes.
The Napoli's hull was strengthened by a series of long beams. But under the engine room, they changed direction to better support the weight of the machinery. The exact point where the emergency began.
Damn it! We've got flooding in the engine room. Get down there and take a look at what's going on.
When we started really looking into the design, there was certainly an inherent weakness in the structure in the engine room.
Just made that one area potentially weaker than the rest of the ship.
The investigators think they're onto something. But the Napoli was a modern ship built under strict specifications.
Wave height, 9 meters.
How did a design flaw slip through the cracks?
Winds, 60 knots.
And how many other ships are at risk? Investigators looking into the loss of the Napoli are now focused on a potential weakness in the ship's design.
It's not an uncommon design, but the design of the Napoli, the engine room, was fairly far forward.
The design put the engine room and the change in framing closer to the middle of the ship, an area that's highly stressed at sea.
It became very apparent that the engine room structure would have been a very highly stressed part of the hull.
Did the Napoli have an Achilles heel that caused it to break open? It's an intriguing theory.
We're starting to get a bit of a picture as to what could have caused this structural failure. But we still had to go deeper.
To uncover the truth, They'll have to bring all of their evidence together and recreate the exact conditions the moment the ship broke open. They need to know if the design was strong enough to withstand the many stresses on the ship that day.
Chief, we're in big trouble. We got water in the engine room. Looks like the hull's opened up.
To test their theory, the investigators team up with experts from the DNV,
Waves, 9 meters.
the international organization that helps set standards for designing and building ships.
Winds, 60 knots.
They input all the incremental stresses the investigators discovered into a computer simulation program, from the storm to the overweight cargo to the force of the waves.
Run the simulation.
They need to know how the hull design will react. Cargo vessels are supposed to have a safety buffer between their design and the forces they're expected to encounter, including being overweight or in a storm. The results are conclusive. By a tiny margin, the combination of stressors the Napoli faced that day was just enough to rupture the hull.
At that point, the forces that are at bear are greater than the strength of the vessel. There may be a margin of safety from the design criteria, but anything that's beyond that can put it outside the limits. You've got the overweight containers, you've got the sea state. So you had all these things that combined together.
One stress in particular may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. The vibrations that shook the length of the hull as it slammed up and down in the waves.
As we found in the Napoli, is that put that on top of all the other stresses which were going on at the time could have been enough to just tip it over the edge.
The findings from the Marine Accident Investigation Branch spark a review of 1,500 container ships. 12 are found to be at risk of the same kind of failure as the Napoli and are slated for immediate repair.
I think this investigation was very significant in terms of saving lives in that it immediately put a spotlight on other similar vessels that existed and, of course, changed the design of future vessels.
Regulations are put in place to ensure all new ships will have sufficient hull strength.
Because of what we identified, the larger ships now are going through a far more stringent strength analysis at the design stage before they're being built.
A long-standing problem in the shipping industry is also addressed when loading computers are upgraded to help prevent ships from being overloaded.
Clearly the industry does its best to learn itself and to think things through, but it's not until an incident happens that you really start to see where the weak points are.
The new regulations will not only save ships,
Abandoned ship!
but lives as well. For the investigators on the MAIB team, it's a rewarding conclusion to a long and challenging investigation.
Experience has shown that no, you've got to keep patient, you've got to keep with it, chase down the other avenues, because there's always something turns up.
It's got to be Branscombe.
Robin Middleton faced a barrage of criticism for running the Napoli aground at Branscombe Beach. But he thinks his critics are missing the most important outcome from the emergency, one that vindicates him beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I believe that the decisions were proved correct. They did not look correct at the time to a lot of people. But the fact is that the Napoli did not turn out to be a major environmental disaster.
In my view, he was absolutely the right person in the right place at the right time. And Robin's gift was to be able to take a really desperate group of people and have them working towards a common goal.
Forbes Duthie has continued his career at sea, but the memory of the Napoli disaster is never far away.
Initially, when you stand on the dock and look up at it, you think, you can't lose a ship like that. They're just so strong. They're built to withstand anything. But then It's not always the case, and you've got to always be ready for the unexpected. I'm never going to forget it. It's going to make me stronger.
A deadly explosion rocks a massive container ship.
Containers blew off like rockets. Just a tremendous explosion.
I cannot see everything. Black smoke coming.
It was a flaming hell.
Abandoned ship, abandoned ship. All crew to lifeboat station.
If there was one explosion, there could be another. Things could go from bad to horrible in an instant.
Everything is completely destroyed.
When investigators finally get on board,
all of the containers were damaged. It was a mess.
How should we find anything in this chaos?
they find traces of a chemical cocktail that could turn a cargo hold into a ticking time bomb.
It was very clear that with a chemical reaction, something will explode.
And uncovers a danger that threatens shipping around the world.
Until someone finds the solution, ships will be destroyed and people will die.
Connect the hoses!
In the port of New Orleans, the sun's down, but it's still hot. The 300-meter container ship Flaminia is being loaded with cargo.
It was a very nice night. Flaminia was loaded with just about everything one could imagine. Probably 1,000 different cargoes.
Everything is okay down there? Yes, sir. All good.
Chief Mate Cesare Ciuta is in charge of the entire loading operation.
How many cans going into one port? 262.
Ship's bosun Arnold Nesperos supervises the deck crew.
I'm the one who gave the crew their job, their task.
It'll take about 12 hours to load before Flaminia heads out to its next port of call.
The loading, discharging, that's a big job.
We must check all the containers and we make sure that it is stored in the right position.
After this, the pool house.
Able-bodied seaman Ibrahim Maruk has been with the ship for just 3 months.
Working a ship is a very hard job, but you meet a lot of good friends. We treat each other like brothers. We treat the ship like our own home.
When fully loaded, Flaminia can carry more than 3,000 containers. Each one is loaded according to its weight, cargo, and final destination.
They have a loading plan. Row 1, row 2, row 3 like this.
Dangerous goods are sorted by what's safe to go in a cargo hold and what needs to be stowed on deck.
If this is dangerous cargo, corrosive or flammable, we put a label.
The ship's 8 massive holds are equipped with vertical rails to guide each container into position. It's a system built for speed.
It's very fast, very precise. Container cranes are so efficient at moving cargo that what used to take weeks can take hours.
When a hold is filled, enormous hatch covers are lowered in place, and more containers are loaded on top.
There are at least 5 million containers moving across the world at any one given day. It's very much like a cross between watching a ballet and an assembly line. It's beautiful to see the arc of the containers moving through the air as truck after truck comes and is either loaded or discharged.
These containers hold everything from clothing and furniture to industrial chemicals, all bound for the European market.
90% of all manufactured goods are carried in containers.
Bosun, ready to secure the deck? Ready, sir.
Once everything is loaded, the dock workers secure the last of the containers for the voyage ahead. The next morning, Flaminia heads out to sea.
Autopilot engaged, sir.
In 15 days, it should make the approximate 10,000-kilometer voyage to the port of Antwerp, Belgium. In addition to 23 officers and crew, Flaminia is also carrying paying passengers.
There's an easy way to do things. Get on a plane and fly. Nothing could be more boring to me. Container ships, great fun. You pay them and they'll give you a ride.
Johnny Rosen has a ticket to Europe. It's not the fastest way to cross the Atlantic, but he loves it.
If you're footloose and fancy-free and don't give a damn, when you get there, you're perfect for a freighter. The best part of it is you can wander around the ship, hang out in the bridge with the officers, with the crew. I would ask a million questions.
That's the whole ship? So cool.
They're anxious to show off their ship and give you the grand tour. They'll take you down to the bottom of the engine room and all the way to the top. You get to see everything. It's their baby, and they love to show it off.
May I? Yeah, sure. Nice. No problem.
Chief Mate Cesare Ciuta is second in command on Flaminia.
The amazing Mr. Ciuta, hell of a guy.
The chief mate is set to go home when they finally reach Antwerp.
He had a wife and child in Poland, and he daydreamed about getting back to them.
Other crew members are also due for home leave when they reach port. One of them is Seaman Ramon Parcon. He can't wait to see his family.
We seldom see each other because he's working for 7 to 9 months on board and go home for 2 months and then leave again. So he is always excited to go home. He told me, "How are you? I will be home next week. I'll see you. I love you." I answered it back with, "I love you too and see you."
13 days after leaving New Orleans, Flaminia has traveled more than halfway across the Atlantic. It's been a smooth voyage so far, but not for long.
We have smoke in cargo hold 4.
The ship's sensors detect a problem in one of the cargo holds.
Captain, we have an alarm in hold 4.
In the massive cargo hold below are 262 containers. There's no way to tell which of them set off the alarm.
The ship is full of stacks of boxes, 9 high and 14 across, with another 160 or so stacked on the hatch covers. If there's a fire in one of the boxes buried deep into the stack, you've got a big problem.
I have command.
The captain takes control of the ship.
You better organize a fire crew.
Yes, sir. All crew to muster station. All crew to muster station. This is not a drill.
I heard this, the fire alarm.
Ibrahim is one of the designated firefighters on board.
What is it? I don't know. I felt afraid. This is real. This is my first time I experienced with a real fire.
I'm stopping her.
The captain initiates a safety maneuver.
The ship was traveling at 20 knots. If you've got a fire, you don't want a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing across the deck of the ship, so you stop the ship dead in the water.
Is there fire? We'll see. In the master station, the crew are assisting me to put on the fire suit. Hoses, extinguishers. What's going on?
There was a tremendous commotion. Everybody swung into action. Every crewman had a fire hose draped on his shoulder, and they were dragging all kinds of equipment and fire extinguishers to the front of the ship.
Listen, whenever you're ready, meet us above cargo hold 4. Yes, sir. The rest of you, follow me. Let's go! Move, 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 move!
Container ships are set up to fight fire in 2 different ways. You can try to cool the fire with fire hoses, and you can try to smother the fire with CO2.
Release CO2 to hold number 4.
For a fire to burn, you need 3 things. You need fuel, you need heat, you need oxygen.
Yes, sir. CO2 to hold 4.
To fight a fire, you need to be able to take away any one of those 3.
The ship's built-in firefighting system is designed to snuff out a fire by releasing carbon dioxide gas into any one of the cargo holds.
When you pour CO2 into an enclosed hold, all the oxygen is forced out of the hold, the fire goes out. That's what is supposed to happen.
But this time, something goes wrong.
It's the engine room.
An alarm indicates CO2 gas in the engine room where it shouldn't be. It triggers a series of shutdowns that makes it difficult to restart the engine.
There are lots of situations where having a dead engine gives you a big problem.
If there's fire and the wind changes direction, the captain can't maneuver the ship to control where the flames spread.
The Flaminia was just so far out at sea, well beyond the range of helicopters to help them. They're on their own.
The fire crew arrives on the scene. Whatever's smoking in the hold below appears to be getting worse.
What is that? I don't know. Not only a smoke, it's big smoke.
The CO2 doesn't seem to be stopping it.
Connect the hoses! Come on, move!
It's very difficult to get fire hoses down into the hold of the ship. So what you do with your fire hoses is you try to contain the fire by cooling the area around where it's burning. If you can limit it to one hatch, you're ahead of the game.
When I prepare this fire hose, and then I heard
Containers blew off the deck just like rockets, and the whole ship shook.
A massive fireball erupts from the ship's cargo hold. The captain doesn't know if any of his firefighters are still alive.
I was safe in the master station, and I heard one guy shouting, "They are all dead! They are all dead."
In the middle of the Atlantic, container ship Flaminia is on fire. There's a massive burning crater, and 7 firefighters are missing.
The ship is on fire. It was really big smoke.
This explosion was so intense, the hatch covers were blown off, containers were falling into the ocean. There was a wall of flame burning out of control.
There are still thousands of containers on board. The captain has to get everyone off the ship before any more explode.
Abandon ship, abandon ship. All crew to lifeboat station.
If there was one explosion, there could be another. It became a ticking time bomb.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is the MVMSC Flaminia.
Things could go from bad to horrible in an instant.
The crew boards a lifeboat near the back of the ship. The captain tries to contact his firefighters.
Forward station, come in.
He has no idea if any of them are still alive.
Forward station, please respond.
Nobody is replying to the call of the captain.
On the forward deck, Arnold has survived the explosion, but he's deafened by the blast.
I don't know what happened for me. I only hear woo, like an echo on both sides. Blood coming here. I cannot see everything. Black smoke coming. And then I hear, "Walker, help me! Help me!" And I crawled. I tell him, "Don't stand, because if you stand, we die also." The flame here. So we make only crawl, going forward.
The survivors found themselves at the forward end of hatch number 4 with an inferno raging a few hundred feet from them. The passageway back was completely blocked by containers that had fallen on deck. They're on their own, trapped on the bow of a burning ship.
Through the smoke and haze, Arnold finds 4 of the crewmen, but 2 are still missing.
Where's the rest?
Seaman Ramon Parcon and the chief mate.
The safety of the crew, that is my responsibility. I go back again and look. I shout, "Shipmate, Ramon!" Because I know Parco and shipmate together.
Ramon!
I saw one crew. Who's this? Who's crew? I cannot identify this crew. Totally fire on his body.
Hey, get the tar!
It's the chief mate. He's barely conscious.
This is very bad situation. But he's still talking.
What?
His voice is like an echo. Thank you. Thank you, boss. You find me like that. You find me.
We'll get you out!
The crew at the other end of the ship finishes boarding the lifeboat
Forward station, come in!
as the captain makes one last desperate call.
Forward station, come in! What? Captain is calling. Can you hear me? Over. What?
Captain's shouting, forward station, forward station. I cannot hear. It was my ear.
Forward station, please respond! Captain! It's Bosun! We're injured! They're alive.
They know that there are people injured. They're not going to abandon these guys.
Roll the embarkation ladder. We're coming to get you. Copy. Let's go. One.
They lower the emergency ladder and prepare to escape.
The captain really needed to reach these guys as soon as they could because they didn't know when the next explosion might come.
Lower us down. Pull the cable release.
They launch the lifeboat into dangerous water.
Inside the lifeboat, I looked into the water and I saw lots of containers are floating.
There's a minefield, jagged debris that could snag the lifeboat and endanger everyone on board. They move with caution towards the front of the ship.
Parcon!
Arnold keeps searching for the last missing sailor, Ramon Parcon.
Ramon!
I shouting. Nobody answered.
After making it through the debris, the lifeboat reaches the escape ladder.
Forward station, we're prepared to abandon ship.
The injured men help each other get aboard. Another explosion could come any second.
Bosun! Captain to Bosun! Parcon! Bosun, we have to leave now. Parcon!
Captain tell me, Bosun, leave the ship. We go now. I have no choice. I go down also. I don't know what happened from Parcon.
Where's Parcon?
I was really very sad. I can't believe that Parcon is gone.
I saw my crew, I saw captain, no speak, some people crying. Only yesterday we are very happy singing, and now we are here.
I was shocked. They're burned and they have no eyelashes, no eyebrows, no hair.
Ceuta was ominously quiet. We knew he was in deep trouble.
I am afraid if no one rescue us in 24 hours, half of the crew will die because of their injury. We waited a couple of hours inside the lifeboat.
There's a ship, I can see it.
Suddenly, on the horizon, another container ship, the DS Crown. And they came to the rescue.
The ship has responded to the mayday, and the survivors are hoisted aboard.
When I was in this crown and seeing the Flaminia burning, I feel very lucky.
This haunting video shot by one of the crew shows how narrow their escape actually was.
It'd be absolutely horrifying to see your ship, your home, belching flame and fire. It's nothing any sailor would ever want to see.
There's a desperate effort to save the chief mate, but it's too late. Cesare Ceuta dies from his injuries. A second crew member later succumbs to his burns in a hospital. Ramon Parcon is never found. The father of four is declared lost at sea.
We are very devastated. He's supposed to go home a week after that email. What will we do now? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. What will we do now?
2 days later, Flaminia is still burning in the middle of the Atlantic. And the search for answers has already begun. Because the ship is German-owned, the Federal Bureau of Marine Casualty Investigation takes the case. Lead investigator Harald Erdbeer is in charge.
Okay, let's see what we have.
It was very important to launch an investigation into the Flaminia case because of the explosion and the fire on board, and people lost their life.
Erdbeer is a master mariner and an expert in maritime safety. It's his job to find out what happened and why.
Real evidence is a very important part of the investigation. So we were very curious to see the ship.
The evidence Harald needs is aboard Flaminia. But the ship is on fire about 1,000 kilometers from land. It's the job of salvage master Chris Baus to save it.
Our interest is in saving the vessel and as much cargo as we possibly can.
Baus is in charge of the operation. With the fire raging out of control, his team needs to find a way to put it out before the entire ship is lost.
We see black smoke coming up, and then we get closer look at where the fire is, and then we start cooling down the vessel.
With high-powered hoses, they battle the fire for days, but they can't step aboard until they're sure nothing else will explode.
That's always in the back of your mind. You're watching the vessel constantly. You're on high alert all the time.
With almost 3,000 containers on board, there's no simple way for Chris and his team to identify which ones are the most dangerous.
You don't know whether it will be poisonous or highly explosive, and you don't know what will happen.
There's another danger. The rescue effort could actually jeopardize the ship.
The problem with salvage is it's very easy to sink a ship while you're trying to save it. Or you can destabilize the ship by pumping water onto the fire.
It's always something difficult, always challenging, complicated. That's a long process before we finally can say the fire is under control.
It takes almost 2 months for the team to put out the fire, connect the tows, and convince a port to accept Flaminia. While he waits, Harald Erdbeer meets with the captain and some of the crew.
Our hope during the interviews was to get more information about what's happened and what was the ignition source for the fire and for the explosion.
There are crucial questions that none of the crew can answer, not even the ship's captain.
What do you think started this?
I have no idea. All we could see was the smoke.
What the captain does know raises even more questions.
We released CO2. It seemed to have no effect.
Harald has a double mystery to solve. What caused the explosion, and why did the firefighting system fail to stop it?
We need to get on that ship.
Almost 2 months after a deadly explosion on Flaminia, the still smoldering container ship is towed to a port in Wilhelmshaven, Germany.
As the ship entered the port, there was a lot of smells from the burnt materials and all the rusty containers.
Investigator Harald Erdbeer finally steps aboard the wreckage.
How's it looking out there? Everything is completely destroyed.
We got a basket from one of the container cranes and we flew over the vessel and make some pictures. I was very impressed about the amount of damages in the cargo hold area. All of the containers were damaged and all the containers were beneath and collapsed. It was a mess. I could see there was no chance to find out any source of the fire or where the explosion starts.
Investigators search for evidence on the bridge, which is still intact.
All the informations were collected in a computer. Data from the rudder, from the main engine, voice data from the bridge.
All this data is backed up on another device known as a voyage data recorder, or VDR.
Can you get the VDR, Captain?
Yes. It's very important for us to get the voice data because you can see the first steps of the ship's command, how they started to fight the fire, what was their thinking about the situation.
Flaminia's VDR not only survived the fire, it's in perfect condition.
You got the data from the VDR, and then our technical officer prepared the replay.
Data comes up, but it's not what they're looking for.
There was no VDR data.
Mayday! Mayday! Mayday!
When the crew abandoned ship, the systems were left running.
The ship's command did not push the button to make an emergency backup.
The information recorded on the VDR is overwritten every 12 hours with new data. The data recorded at the time of the accident is long gone.
It's difficult because we have to find other solutions to bring the investigation forward.
With no VDR data and little more than twisted wreckage in the hold, Harald needs to come up with a new plan. He needs a chemist.
Welcome to the team.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not a chemist, so we need expertise.
How long was it running?
Almost 2 months.
The investigation turns to maritime chemist Dr. Dana Meisner.
Fire is a chemical reaction, and of course that makes sense to ask a chemist what was the combustible material, where came the oxygen from, and why such heavy damages.
Dana is Director of Research and Development at the German Institute for Ship Safety.
My first thoughts was, oh, how should we find anything in this chaos? Everything was laying around, completely destroyed.
There's 262 containers in cargo hold 4.
Dana's challenge is to examine the contents of every single container and figure out which one of them could have triggered an explosion so powerful it would blast hundreds of tons of steel and cargo into the air.
I reported all these different cargoes. I made this graphic with all these cargoes written in beside each other, what is near another. Spices, coconuts, furniture, cat litter, cotton. Really crazy things, one behind the other.
Not only that, there are more than 100 containers filled with industrial products and potentially hazardous chemicals.
Next step then was just to look if one of these cargoes could react with surrounding material.
After poring over the long list, Dana zeroes in on a prime suspect: PVC. There are 90 containers filled with PVC powder stowed in and on top of cargo hold 4. It's a common material used in everything from credit cards to clothing.
PVC is dangerous if it is heated because it can react with surrounding steel to produce hydrogen gas. And hydrogen gas was an explosive gas.
Hydrogen gas can produce whitish-gray smoke, similar to what the ship's crew saw after the alarm.
So, all this PVC, could it produce enough hydrogen gas to cause a massive explosion?
Yes, but
Dana thinks she's identified what exploded, but she's convinced the danger started elsewhere.
PVC has to be very hot to produce hydrogen gas. PVC will not warm up itself. There must be something else which was very hot to heat up the PVC.
The question is, what was it? Aboard the ship, technicians search for clues in Flaminia's smoke detection system. It's also still intact.
The smoke alarm is in fact a sniffer. It takes air from each of the cargo holds and observes whether there are particles in the air and will set off an alarm.
Whatever triggered the alarm may have left residue inside the system's tubing. It could be exactly what investigators need to crack the case.
We have smoke in cargo hold 4.
Experts think something in a cargo hold, deep in the belly of Flaminia, heated 90 containers of PVC and made them hot enough to explode. Trace particles of whatever set off the PVC may be in the tubing of the ship's smoke detection system.
They wanted to find if something was sucked out of the cargo hold into these pipes.
Technicians find traces of divinyl benzene, or DVB. It's a chemical used in industrial adhesives.
This is an indicator that DVB molecules came out of the container and came up onto these pipes.
With this new lead, Dana goes back to her chart.
There were 3 containers with DVB in these cargo holds. DVB is a very reactive and very hazardous substance which can produce a lot of heat.
3 containers of the reactive chemical are stowed deep in the middle of cargo hold 4, with PVC on both sides. DVB is so dangerous that to make it safe for transport, it's mixed with a chemical stabilizer that stops it from reacting and heating up.
There's a distinct amount of stabilizer in this cargo, which under normal conditions works for 60 days.
That's plenty of time to complete the voyage. But just 13 days after Flaminia left New Orleans, the DVB had begun its chemical reaction.
We have smoke in cargo hold 4.
And triggered the alarm. What went wrong?
The ship explodes here.
Harold calls on Dr. Thomas Hofer, an expert in maritime safety. Can he explain why the DVB reacted sooner than it should have?
The stabilization is destroyed over time. So the question for the investigation was to find out the original starting point of the chemical reaction.
If we trace its route, the journey of these containers really started here in Baton Rouge.
From Baton Rouge, the DVB was put into the tank containers and then they transported that to New Orleans.
As they track the shipment of these chemicals, they uncover something unexpected.
No one was really looking at the temperature in the environment. What we found out was that the chemical was exposed to a temperature of more than 30 degrees Celsius in the harbor.
At 30 degrees Celsius, the stabilizer, which stops DVB from heating up, depletes at a faster rate. These containers and their volatile chemicals baked in the hot sun for 10 days.
It was so important to know how long the containers have already been on the road before coming on the ship. How much time was left of this shortened period of stabilizer acting.
At a temperature of 18 degrees, the stabilizer will last for 60 days.
I was interested to know the temperature and to know the duration of temperature to calculate this acting time of the stabilizer.
But if the temperature rises to 27 degrees, the stabilizer is reduced to 30 days.
So the warmer it gets, the faster the stabilizer runs out.
Correct.
If there is no more stabilizer in, then this reaction will go on and produce a lot of heat.
The hot Louisiana sun could have cut the stabilizer's time in half. But it still should have lasted the entire voyage. Investigators search for any other heat source that could have pushed it over the edge.
We started looking at the temperature surrounding the 3 containers.
Tomas doesn't have to look far before he spots more trouble inside the cargo hold.
You see all these containers, they're heated.
We identified that these containers were packed with containers which were warm around them.
10 containers of a chemical that's heated to a molten state for transport.
You heat it up to 80, 90 degrees Celsius.
And they're not just anywhere in the hold. They're sitting right next to the DVB.
So all that heat is going straight into the DVB.
Exactly.
Investigators have just found the trigger to a bomb. The heat destroys the stabilizer, and the DVB now begins a deadly chain reaction.
The reaction would start creating 200 to 350 degrees. The pressure in the tanks would go, and then the very hot white smoke comes up.
The continuously building heat turns the entire hold into a giant pressure cooker, possibly hot enough to cause the 90 containers of PVC to produce explosive hydrogen gas.
It was very clear that with the heat, something will explode.
It's the last piece of the puzzle that may explain what set off the deadly explosion. But investigators still have an important question to answer.
The crew released a lot of CO2 gas into the hold. Why didn't it stop the explosion?
Release CO2 to hold number 4.
Stand by. CO2 to hold 4.
Investigators have learned that when Flaminia's fire alarm went off, the captain and crew responded immediately, but they don't know what went wrong.
We released CO2. It seemed to have no effect.
Looking for answers, surveyors returned to Flaminia to test the ship's firefighting system.
During their work, they find out that there was a false connection in the CO2 system, the cargo holds.
They discover a problem in the installation of the tubing system. While gas was flooding into cargo hold 4,
CO2 released.
a bad connection triggered a false alarm in the engine room and prevented the crew from restarting the engine.
It automatically shuts off the ventilation to the engine room, which kills the boiler. Those two things stop the main engine from being restarted.
We're about to lose the main engine.
The biggest problem created by the false shutdown was that it was another distraction at a time when there was too much going on.
Even though Flaminia had been in operation for more than 10 years, no one knew about the faulty installation.
The failure was during the construction of the whole system in the yard.
Investigators flag other ships that had the same system installed, and they find a disturbing pattern.
We believe that 7 ships of that series was affected by the same failure.
The ships with the same problem are immediately flagged for repair. The installation problem was serious, but it doesn't explain the disaster. Surveyors confirmed that firefighting CO2 gas was delivered into cargo hold 4. The gas is supposed to suffocate a fire by displacing the oxygen that fuels it. So why didn't it work?
If the fire is spread outside the container, CO2 is very effective.
On Flaminia, the problem started inside sealed containers.
If you have a fire inside a container, getting the CO2 into the container is very difficult.
Carbon dioxide, it will not go into the containers. The water will not go into containers. No extinguishing agent will go into the containers because they are sealed. This is a problem.
If there's a fire inside a container that's buried in a ship's hold, there may be no way to stop it.
Connect the hoses!
The firefighters were in a desperate battle they could never have won.
The crew did exactly what they had to do, and the only thing you can do as a crew, because that is the firefighting system you have.
Firefighting systems are not enough, and it points to an even bigger problem. The year Flaminia burned, there were on average more than 1 fire or explosion on a container ship per week. With more than 5,000 container ships moving around the world every day, the lives of many more crews could be in danger.
Until someone finds a solution, there will be container fires and people will die.
If the dangerous containers had been up on deck, firefighters could have cooled down the area with water and possibly prevented the explosion. But that's not where the containers were.
That means this chemical should never have been stored in the hold.
Who told to stow it there, and was it good to stow it there?
Investigators dig through the original paperwork to find out why a dangerous chemical like DVB was stored deep in the ship's hold.
The chemical company has to classify the hazards and had to define storage condition, whether it's on deck, under deck. So we got papers from the industry about the cargoes.
The paperwork includes the manufacturer's instructions for handling the DVB.
Listen to this. Do not store above heat sources, store above deck for temperature monitoring.
It was not to be exposed to heat, and it was to be loaded on deck so temperature could be monitored. Those are great instructions, but the crew never saw it.
The warnings about DVB were listed on tracking documents.
Everything is okay down there? Yes, sir. All good.
Those warnings seem never to have made it to the ship. Did missing paperwork cost 3 men their lives? In the case of Flaminia, the DVB manufacturer should have never shipped such a volatile chemical through New Orleans in the summer, and the freight forwarder shouldn't have let it sit there for 10 days.
The company ashore is responsible for this stowing process and preparing the papers. The crew mostly do not know what kind of goods are in the containers.
A civil court ruled that no one on the ship was responsible for the errors. The manufacturer's recommendations were never included in the stow plan.
For reasons that are not clear, when the captain looked at it and the chief mate looked at it, they had no information whatsoever that this should have been stowed on deck.
With no manufacturer's warning, the DVB was stowed according to how it was classified. International rules divide dangerous cargo into categories which include explosive, flammable, toxic, and corrosive. But DVB had two different classifications. One designates it as a dangerous substance, the other as a marine pollutant. It's this designation that sealed the fate of Flaminia's crew.
If it's a marine pollutant, you are not allowed to stow them outside, and the shipper decided totally correctly, having this cargo, put it in the center of the hold.
The crew had no idea there was a ticking time bomb in the cargo hold, and a dangerous chemical reaction was about to begin.
We have smoke in cargo hold 4.
By the time they were aware of the problem,
CO2 released.
it was already too late.
We need more hoses!
There was nothing they could do to stop it. Investigators conclude the explosion was in part the result of a classification which sent the dangerous chemical into the hold.
We found out that something is wrong here. We would not have classified this way.
This error affects container ships all over the world.
It only takes one mislabeled box that has something that will catch fire and spread rapidly out of control to destroy a large ship.
Those risks are multiplying as container ships get bigger and bigger.
In her days, Flaminia was one of the larger container ships in the world. Compared to a lot of ships these days, she's not that large anymore.
To keep up with increasing global demand, some of today's container ships have more than 3 times the capacity of Flaminia.
Big solutions often create big problems. The larger the container ship, the more chance that you're going to have a container with a problem because they just have more boxes. And the people who pay the price are the seamen who lose their lives and the ship owners who lose their ships.
We need to do something about this.
The case goes to the International Maritime Organization to change how DVB is classified for transport.
Because of the accident of Flaminia, DVB was put into another hazard class.
You have to stow it where the crew can reach it, measure the temperature, because it's so dangerous.
Under the new rules, DVB is now labeled in the same category as some forms of TNT. With millions of containers moving across the oceans every day, the new rules are important to save sailors' lives. But there's still more work to be done.
The magic of containerization is a nightmare of containerization. The world has so many dangerous chemicals that need to be moved around, and it's just very difficult to make sure that every container is properly labeled and properly handled. The good news is no one is going to make the same mistake that they made in New Orleans. The bad news is that there are lots of other chemicals and there are lots of other mistakes that can be made.
The explosion on Flaminia claimed the lives of 3 crew members, including the first officer.
First officer has the job of making sure that everyone survives. And he did that. He did a great job, but it cost him his life.
Due to his injuries, Arnold Nisperos would never work on a ship again. He's haunted by the loss of his fellow crew.
I remember every July what happened for us. Life is very short. It's like a magic, and then all finished.
Where's Pacon? For my lost crewmates, I hope they are in peace.
Their friend Ramon Parcon was never found.
So my mom and I flew to Germany to see the Flaminia on our own eyes.
His family pays their respects at his final resting place.
We cried when we reached Flaminia. The containers were melted. It was burned. We're just thinking that my dad was there. I was hoping that he grow old with us. We could spend time more together. But it did not happen anymore.
The loss of a mammoth container ship baffles investigators.
One of the biggest questions we had was why was this ship so close to the eye of the hurricane?
The search for answers takes them to the bottom of the ocean.
Wait. What's that?
Honestly, couldn't believe what we were seeing.
350!
Why did an experienced crew
Damn it!
end up on a deadly course?
Bring the abandoned ship!
And did something happen to tip them over the edge?
Let me slip it! I'm going down! No, you're not! Come on! Go!
You know they're going through something. You know they're in pain.
Help me! You gotta get out!
They're in trouble. And they were.
Hurricane Alley in the North Atlantic is famous for its storms. And right now, the crew of the 241-meter container ship El Faro has already changed course to avoid a big one, Tropical Storm Joaquin. In command of the ship and all 32 crew members on board is Captain Michael Davidson.
Right now it's an easterly swell.
We're just gonna have to watch it. The weather pattern is crazy erratic.
The captain, he had over 24 years at sea. He'd sailed in the North Atlantic and the Alaskan runs. He was experienced with heavy weather, and he knew this ship.
El Faro is about halfway into a 2.5-day weekly run from Jacksonville, Florida to San Juan, Puerto Rico. The massive ship is carrying 11,000 tons of cargo, 391 shipping containers on deck, and 505 tractor trailers and cars in her holds. Jack Hearn is a former captain of the El Faro. He knows the ship and worked with many of her crew.
But at the point, she was roughly 40 years old and still in good condition. The steel was thick, the framing was close, and she was a powerfully built ship and powerfully engineered ship. Excellent in rough weather.
But that's about to be put to the test. Less than 12 hours into El Faro's journey, the National Hurricane Center upgrades Joaquin to a full Category 1 hurricane.
By 2 o'clock, so on your watch, you should be south of this monster.
Yeah.
It's more important than ever to avoid Joaquin. So the captains charted a course to keep a safe distance from the eye of the storm.
The captain thought that his speed and the course would place him further to the south of the hurricane. It'll be a rough night, but ultimately the storm would still be further to the north of him.
Well, I'm gonna watch a little television, I think.
Second mate and ship's navigator Danielle Randolph will stand watch overnight. The 34-year-old bridge officer is one of only 2 women on board. She's just returned from a vacation visiting her mother.
Right from kindergarten on, she wanted to work on boats, as she put it. She wanted to be out to sea. She wanted to be a sailor. She wanted to go on a big ship and loved it. And to her, the ocean was home.
Woo! It's gonna be a bumpy one.
Yeah.
The plan to outrun the storm makes sense. El Faro's main engine can deliver up to 30,000 horsepower.
This was a vessel that was capable of doing up to 20 knots. And the captain was counting on his speed as part of his, options for keeping away or clear of the storm.
But by 1 in the morning, they're hitting the edges of the storm, and it's taking a toll on the crew's nerves.
You'll feel the bow of the ship in a heavy wave as the storm starts to build. You'll feel the lurch and the suddenness of shock. It stops everything, and it's stunning, and you wonder if it's going to come right through.
Then it gets worse.
Please be advised, Hurricane Joaquin has been upgraded to a Category 3 storm.
In less than 24 hours, Joaquin has grown from a Category 1 to a powerful Category 3 hurricane. Near its center, it's producing sustained winds of 185 kilometers an hour.
Oh my God.
Hurricane expert David Nolan tracked the storm's unusual behavior.
Joaquin did something we call rapid intensification, which is a large increase in strength over a relatively short period of time.
As the wind picks up, so does the sea. Waves begin reaching heights of 8 meters or more, with extreme waves almost twice that high.
It's a sea state that most people never get to see or experience in any way whatsoever.
It's even worse at night because you can't see anything, and all you're doing is feeling the motion of the ship and feeling and hearing the waves hit you.
Whoa!
And it actually does become frightening.
I'm gonna give the captain a call and see if he wants to come up.
In these worsening conditions, the second mate fears their present course is no longer safe.
This is the captain.
Captain, it isn't looking good up here.
She wants to change their heading to steer even farther away from the hurricane.
For my track line, I've got 0200. Alter course straight south and turn.
Her alternate course would take them through a channel between Cuba and the Bahamas, sheltering them from the worst of the storm.
No, this is looking good. Stay with the course as we planned it.
Okay.
And the captain says, no, I think we're going to be okay. From the information I'm looking at, we're going to continue on.
He said to run it!
On shore, meteorologists are tracking the storm closely. It's becoming clear Joaquin is not only getting stronger, it's no longer following the projected course.
Most of the computer model forecasts originally took Joaquin to the north. I think that's what a lot of us expected to do. The fact that it continued to move southwest was really a surprise.
On board, Danielle has finished her shift and sends a worried email to her mother.
She said, I'm not sure if you've been watching the weather, but we're in a hurricane. And for her to say that, it was unusual because she never wanted to worry me. She wrote love to everyone. She never, ever signed her emails like that.
At 4 a.m., Chief Mate Steve Schultz is standing watch on the bridge, and able seaman Frank Ham is at the helm. The intensity of the storm has him on edge.
Captain, I knew by 1 a.m. the storm was coming in.
Wow, this is every day in Alaska. This is what it's like.
The captain calls on his long experience in Alaska to reassure him.
If the captain is worried or the captain is anxious, then everybody's going to be anxious and everybody's going to be worried. So realistically and professionally, you're trying to put on a brave face throughout everything. As the situation develops, we're going to stay in control, we're going to stay calm.
But something isn't right. The ship has started heeling over to one side. The crew and the captain can feel it.
We're setting, sir. Going like this.
She's being heeled over to that starboard side because all this wind and all the waves are now acting on her port side, and all these containers, all this surface that the wind and the waves can push against, they're pushing us over onto our starboard side. So we've got this wind heel that's going on.
In the enormous 8-meter seas, the main engine is having trouble keeping up. The ship is slowing down, and the wind is blowing them off course.
We're pounding a bit because we're going more easterly. We need to let her get up to speed, get a little more on our course.
It's an alarming development. The captain is depending on their speed to help keep them out of the worst of the storm.
The vessel drops speed over a period of time that's pretty significant, and that indicates that they're really near the center of the storm, which is not the place you want to be.
You can actually feel the pressure changing as you get closer to the center of a storm. Your ears will pop.
Hard right rudder.
Hard right.
It's a struggle just to hold the ship on course. And things are about to get much worse.
Bridge, Captain.
Captain, we've got flooding in number 3.
Go down to 3 hole. Start the pumps right now.
Yes, sir.
The captain is concerned. He has to be concerned, because not only is he in bad weather and what looks to be an increasingly worse situation, now he's got flooding in his number 3 hold.
An hour before dawn, in the jaws of a hurricane, the El Faro is in trouble. Despite having altered course, the massive container ship El Faro is closer than expected to Hurricane Joaquin. Now, they're facing a crisis. The ship is taking on water.
The first thing is that where does the water come from, and how do we stop it from coming in? That's the first priority. Chief Mate, when he goes down to have a look, water is coming in through an open scuttle. Water is running down through this, and it's now down in the hold.
The scuttle is a passageway leading from a deck open to the weather down into the ship's hold. Its hatch should be closed tight, but it's come open.
Captain, it's the chief.
Looks like an open scuttle.
Somehow that scuttle leaked, vibrated open, or was pounded open in rough weather and started taking in water.
With wind blowing the ship to starboard, water is pooling over the open scuttle and being funneled into a hold packed with cars and tractor trailers. The pumps can't keep up with the flooding, and it's too dangerous for the crew to try and shut the hatch.
Right next to that location is a very large hull opening that is actually built for cargo transfer and a truck to drive right through it. So you can imagine the door as large as a tractor trailer and open to the sea with water coming in, chest high. Cargo could move onto you and crush you. It's a critical situation, and you've got to fix it.
Captain Davidson comes up with a plan. He'll use the hurricane itself to help stop the flooding.
I'm gonna turn the ship. Give us a port list so we get a better look at it.
The captain decided we're going to turn the ship so that the wind is now on the other side, on our starboard side, to try and induce more of a port list to dry out the water on the starboard side, and we're going to fix this.
Okay, I'm gonna start the turn. Left 20.
Left 20.
Just before 6 in the morning, the captain turns the El Faro into heavy, oncoming seas.
Steer 350.
350.
It takes a few minutes to turn a big, slow-moving ship, because in those heavy seas and swells, the ship isn't moving like a race car. The ship's going to take much harder rolls, and then you're going to turn and head into these high seas. So it's a very dangerous maneuver, but it's all you can do.
350.
Okay, we've got a nice port list.
As the wind pushes the ship over onto her port side, the water drains off the open hatch, and the crew can seal it shut. It should stop the flooding from getting any worse. But now there's a new problem. Down in the engine room, alarms are going off.
Damn it! I think we just lost the plant.
At the worst possible time, the ship's main engine sputters and shuts down.
The sound of losing your main engines is not a sound that you want to hear.
Manual pump.
The engineers need to restore the oil pressure if they are to have any hope of restarting the engine.
The engine room is the heart, liver, and lungs of the ship. Once the engine room is quiet, everything else on the ship ceases to operate.
Without power, El Faro is at the mercy of the hurricane's enormous waves. The situation is critical.
The ship is rolling, and it's pitching, and the engineers are down there scrambling around. We got to do this. We got to get the engine going.
I need that oil pressure back up now.
With a dead ship in a violent storm, starting the engine is their only hope to survive.
You're in a fight with a storm, and you need that propulsion system to move that ship away from the dangers and deal with each oncoming wave.
No matter what they do, the engineers can't get the engine back online.
The El Faro is now starting to drift. She's starting to turn because the waves are hitting her now, and she's starting to drift side on. And this is the one position no ship wants to be on. Beam on, exposed along her entire length. There's 100-knot winds and seas of over 35 feet.
El Faro could capsize any moment. The captain has no choice but to activate the automated Mayday signal.
All right, let's push button.
Distress button's been activated.
It's the last signal ever received from El Faro.
The ship is now beam on to the seas. We're rolling, we're uncontrollably rolling.
Bring the abandoned ship.
The general alarm has been sounded. Prepare everything to get ready to get off. Everything is breaking loose.
You okay?
Yeah, you good?
Yeah.
There you go, focus.
You know they're going through something. You know that they're in trouble. And they were.
Go, go, go.
Hours later, Hurricane Joaquin slams into the Bahamas, leaving devastation in its path. Search and rescue receive El Faro's distress signal, but the raging storm hinders the search. As hope dwindles, friends and families of the missing crew hold vigil.
We never talked about him never coming home from a ship.
It's just been a lot of agony, but then we all started pooling all our hope and our love together. It's all we're running on now, is just hope.
We were glued to the TV like everyone else, hoping for good news. Is there a chance that there could be a survivor? You hang on hope like everyone else.
7 days after El Faro's last signal, the last shreds of hope are gone. Search and rescue find floating debris strewn over 580 square kilometers. Containers, a life ring, a crushed lifeboat, but no sign of any survivors. All 33 crew on the El Faro are presumed lost at sea. It's the deadliest U.S. maritime disaster in almost 40 years.
She always said to me, if anything happens to me out at sea, Mom, it's okay. I died doing what I want to do.
That is part of our investigation. We are looking at
The U.S. Coast Guard and the National Transportation Safety Board launch an investigation to find out what happened and why.
We know that there are reports that this vessel has sunk in deep water.
It was a U.S. flag vessel that the Coast Guard oversees, and they're U.S. lives, the mariners, and a large number, 33 lost. There was a definite sincere desire to figure out what happened and to not spare any expense.
Finding answers won't be easy. The wreck is lost in waters almost 5 kilometers deep. Five days after the sinking of the El Faro, investigators begin searching for answers. Brian Young is lead investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board.
El Faro was one of the biggest cases I think NTSB has ever dealt with, especially in the marine mode. And we hadn't lost an American ship and the entire crew in decades.
Captain Jason Neubauer of the U.S. Coast Guard is also assigned to the case.
From the Coast Guard standpoint, we look at all the aspects, like also accountability beyond just what caused the accident. We're looking at performance of all the people, including the mariners, the marine inspectors that looked at the ship. That's our charge.
So debris was found here and here. So this is what we're working with.
30 days after the sinking, the wreck is located by Navy sonar. Somewhere among the scattered debris is the most vital piece of evidence, the voyage data recorder. Its microphones capture conversations on the ship's bridge, and its sensors record valuable performance data. The information's then fed to a watertight capsule mounted on top of the bridge. Finding it won't be easy. The VDR is equipped with a locator beacon, but it's not working. And El Faro's twisted wreckage is scattered across 2 square kilometers. Investigators scan the wreckage by using cameras mounted on an ROV, but after weeks of searching, there's no sign of the VDR.
We tried to put together the pieces of what may have possibly happened, and it was very difficult, especially without the VDR, to have any idea as to what the crew experienced in the last few hours.
Why did a ship receiving up-to-the-minute weather data end up in such a deadly position?
So El Faro's there, and this is the eye of the storm.
How did they end up 20 miles from the eye of a hurricane?
That's the million-dollar question.
We knew the captain had made a phone call to the company saying that he was in the hurricane, the ship was in trouble. So what we tried to do was speak with the company representative had received the phone call to see if we can get any more details on that phone call.
So the captain said the ship was flooding and that it was in trouble.
They had some water coming into the ship and that they had lost propulsion.
Thanks for coming by.
But the captain didn't know what set off their engine problems or why they couldn't restart it. Looking for insights, investigators inspect El Faro's sister ship, the El Yunque.
Investigating a ship underwater that is virtually unreachable is a challenge in itself. And we were lucky to have a very similar design vessel, El Yunque, to see if there was any maintenance issues.
It was about the same age, and we wanted to see what the layout of the vessel was, and also were there any problem areas from a watertight integrity standpoint.
It doesn't take them long to find a troubling clue.
Take a look at this.
Each vehicle is supposed to be secured directly to fasteners welded to the deck. But aboard El Yunque, cars are attached to long chains that run across the width of the cargo hold. It's much less secure.
On El Faro, with the increased weather and the wet deck, and the cars only secured to a long chain, it would have been easier for the cars to break free of their lashings and move about the cargo hold, which was subject to immense forces.
Loose cargo can make a ship unstable, especially in a violent storm. The only way to know if this is what happened on El Faro is to go back to the wreckage and find the voyage data recorder.
The question was, where was the voyage data recorder?
Andy Bowen is a principal engineer at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Leaders in deep-sea exploration, their ship, the Atlantis, is equipped with high-definition sonar and an ROV that can hunt for small objects at great depth.
It was a particularly challenging objective.
Any luck yet?
El Faro lies very deep in the ocean, over 4,000 meters down, because looking for something the size of a large can of coffee, which is about what the VDR is, amongst thousands of tons of ship is a little bit like a needle in a haystack.
To make matters worse, the wreck has been torn apart. The mast, and with it the VDR, is still missing.
The bridge was not on the top of the ship where you expected it to be.
Wait. What's that?
They actually found the bridge several hundred meters from the wreckage. And unfortunately, the mast, which would normally have been attached to the top of the bridge, had been separated. And that's where the VDR was.
Is that anything?
No.
So if we could find the mast, which was a large object, it was quite likely that we might find the voyage data recorder connected to it. That was sort of the ideal scenario for us.
So does that bring us to the end of this section?
Not quite.
Investigators chart the location of every piece of debris and use the pattern to target their search.
How's it going?
If they've guessed wrong, the entire expedition could end in failure. NTSB investigator Sean Payne was part of the search team.
At that point, we were basically working off of adrenaline.
Okay, I'm gonna get some sleep.
I had this feeling that if we didn't find it in either my watch or the next watch, if it wasn't in that area, that our hunch that this thing was laid out in a wreckage debris field that made sense like any other accident was incorrect. So there was a lot of pressure going into that night.
A few hours into his shift, something catches his eye.
Oh my God, go back. Honestly, couldn't believe what we were seeing when it came out of the darkness of the sea was finally the shape of the mast.
And even better, a few cables were still holding the VDR to the base.
That's it.
The Navy salvage team is brought back to recover the capsule. Its wires are entangled and need special equipment to cut them free. Investigators may finally have the evidence they need to explain why the El Faro sank, killing all 33 people on board, but only if the data survived. Nearly a year after the sinking of El Faro, investigators finally have their hands on the ship's voyage data recorder. But it's been at the bottom of the ocean for so long, they have no idea if the data has survived.
Whether or not you have an accident that occurs with 1 fatality or an accident that occurs with 33 fatalities, from my point of view in the laboratory, we're going to go as far as we can to unveil how something like this could have unfolded.
They immediately discover a sign the data is intact. The electronics are clean and dry. At NTSB headquarters in Washington, investigators begin the mammoth task of analyzing the conversations captured on the bridge while the disaster was actually unfolding.
The VDR actually recorded 26 hours of the El Faro's final voyage, started somewhere off the coast of Florida, continued on till about 7:40 a.m. when the ship sank off the coast of the Bahamas.
It's the longest recording the NTSB has ever had to analyze.
How's it coming?
Slow progress, but we're getting there. Have a seat.
The investigators listen for clues, hoping to piece together what led to the disaster.
A lot of people talk about the last words, but really it's the words that are spoken well before that that often reveal what happened in an accident.
Very difficult to listen to the entire 26 hours of audio. And the hardest part is we knew how that ending was going to happen, whereas we knew they didn't know that.
As the recording begins, the crew is already tracking the developing storm.
Right now it's an easterly swell.
We're just gonna have to watch it. The weather pattern is crazy erratic.
Yeah.
We want to know if the ship was seaworthy. Was there a problem with the watertight integrity of the vessel? And also, was the crew, did they competently handle the situation?
Bridge, Captain.
They zero in on the captain's attempts to deal with flooding in cargo hold number 3.
Go down to 3 hold. Start the pumps right now.
Yes, sir.
The captain was focusing on trying to close the starboard scuttle that had been verified to be a source of flooding by the crew.
Captain, it's the chief.
Looks like an open scuttle.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the ship around. Give us a port list. See if we can get a better look at it.
So in the bridge, you can hear that they made a decision to turn the vessel to port.
We've got a nice port list.
So the crew gained access to the scuttle on the starboard side and is able to close it. Therefore, no more water is entering the cargo hold via the scuttle.
The captain's maneuver solved one problem, but as investigators listen, they discover the scuttle wasn't the only source of the flooding.
We know from the VDR that they experienced severe flooding even after closing the starboard scuttle.
Captain! I think the water level's rising. Something hit the fire main, got it ruptured. I saw cars bobbing around.
Play that again.
Something hit the fire main, got it ruptured.
Investigators already know cars weren't secured properly on El Faro's sister ship. Now they hear how dangerous that can be.
There's a good possibility that the emergency fire main, which was in hold 3, was damaged by floating vehicles and some other debris in that area.
The fire suppression system uses seawater that is drawn into the ship through pipes.
If a car had struck the incoming pipe at the bottom of the ship that allows seawater to enter into the piping system, there's no way to stop it.
The uncontrolled flooding in cargo hold number 3 was deadly serious. But it doesn't explain what happened next.
Damn it! I think we just lost the plant.
The main engine shut down.
I need that backup now.
And despite the crew's frantic efforts, they couldn't restart it.
Without engines, she's dead in the water.
But why did they lose power? And why couldn't they get it back?
Investigators suspect something catastrophic happened when the captain turned the ship.
Damn it!
The question is, what was it?
Stairs 350.
Investigators want to know why El Faro lost her main engine at the worst possible time, in the middle of a hurricane.
I think we just lost the plant.
If the main engine continued to operate, the ship would have been able to maneuver and put the head of the ship into the wind and possibly been able to maneuver out of harm's way.
It's got to be something about the turn. They lose power right after the turn.
Bridge, Captain.
On the VDR, they hear the crew discussing a problem with low pressure in the engine's lube oil system.
We're gonna get that boiler back up in a second. We're just getting the lube oil pressure up. I need that oil pressure back up now.
Lube oil is essential. Without it, the ship's enormous main engine won't run. And as investigators study the system, they notice a quirk in the design that could explain the failure.
We had the plans, the internal parts of the lube oil sump, which is the tank that provides the oil to lubricate the main turbine.
Investigators notice the valve that feeds lube oil to the engine is offset to one side. The lopsided design means if the ship lists to port by more than 15 degrees, the flow of oil to the main engine is cut off. The timing of the disaster supports the theory. 16 minutes after the captain turned the ship, El Faro began listing by as much as 18 degrees onto her port side.
Not liking that lift.
with deadly results.
At that point, the turbine would shut down automatically.
The port list was likely more extreme than the captain was expecting. The reason why takes investigators back to the problem that made the captain turn the ship in the first place: the flooding in the hold.
Now that there's water in the hold, you have an effect called free surface effect. And this happens when volumes of water are able to shift from side to side in an open space. It adds more roll. It adds increasing power to the ship's rolling. Cars have come loose. That's adding to the weight that's moving around.
The shifting weight has tragic consequences. It helps push the ship farther to port, which not only triggers the engine shutdown, it also makes it impossible to restart.
We believe that the crew was not aware of the limitations of the engine, being exposed to such a heavy port list, and in terms of the engine room was the worst case scenario. The engineers needed the ship to be on an even keel to get the oil pressure back, but the captain needed the engine in order to get the ship to an even keel.
Without engines, it's only a matter of time before the wind and waves of Hurricane Joaquin capsized the ship, taking with her the lives of all 33 people on board. But there's one final mystery. El Faro somehow ended up just 35 kilometers from the eye of the storm. Investigators need to know why.
One of the biggest questions we had was why was this ship so close to the eye of the hurricane? Why he decided to continue on his course?
Part of the explanation could be the unusual nature of Hurricane Joaquin. Not only did it strengthen more quickly than predicted, it also changed direction. After first heading north, it turned to the southwest, straight into El Faro's path. Investigators need to know if that information ever reached the crew. Bit by bit, the conversations on the bridge suggest a tragic answer.
That is odd. Hey, Brian?
The transcripts show the crew knew the storm had changed direction, but the captain didn't.
Look at this.
What do you got?
So right there, I can tell they have the latest weather. The captain is not looking at it.
Wow.
Please be advised, Hurricane Joaquin has been upgraded to a Category 3 storm.
During the second mate's watch, she had a satellite radio on, and she had updates from SAT-C, which is a satellite signal that's sent from the National Weather Service. So the crew was receiving multiple updated weather reports.
That brings us right into the storm at 4 a.m.
They're aware that they are going to be sailing very close to the hurricane.
Captain, it isn't looking good up here.
They hear the second mate calling the captain with an urgent request to steer farther away from the storm.
For my track line, I've got 0200. Alter course straight south and turn.
When the second mate called the captain, she suggested a course change to go directly south to escape the worst part of the weather.
But the captain was confident his course was the right one.
No, this is looking good. Stay with the course as we planned it.
Okay. He said to run it.
We do know that she was given an order to run the original course, which put them close to the eye of the storm.
The second mate tried to warn the captain of the danger. Why didn't he listen to his crew? Investigators examining the loss of the El Faro need to know why the captain didn't realize his ship was heading for the eye of a hurricane.
Information is vital. It's vital to any decision making. You can only make a decision based on as accurate information as you can get.
The El Faro had received weather updates from a variety of sources. But investigators now suspect the captain was only looking at one: a subscription service that uses easy-to-read graphics.
It's very easy to understand. It's a very graphic depiction of the weather system relative to the ship's position. And that was only emailed to the captain's email address.
Although easier to read than satellite reports, it's updated less frequently. By the time it's emailed to the captain, the forecast is already 6 hours old. It still shows Joaquin north of their planned route.
He thinks the storm is here, but it's really here.
The weather reports that he was looking at that indicated his position was to the better side of the storm, whereas in reality, the ship was in the worst quadrant of the hurricane.
Brian, the crew knew they were in trouble.
But the captain didn't listen.
It's likely neither captain nor crew realized he was relying on a forecast that was dangerously out of date.
In the end, it is the captain's decision. When they were faced with the captain's answer, they followed orders.
Set to run it!
I'm sure, knowing Danielle, she was infuriated because she knew that that was not a good option. You're a captain, you're not God. Listen to your crew members.
For the captain, it's important to count down suggestions and concerns that were coming from members of his officers.
2 years after the sinking, investigators issue their final report into the tragedy.
There was a ripple effect of problems on the El Faro: flooding, propulsion, and storm. They call this sometimes an error chain, where there's a chain of events that are linked. And if any one of those things had not happened, possibly they would have survived the storm.
This is the captain.
Captain, it isn't looking good up here.
It begins with the captain's mistaken decision to ignore his crew and stay on his course.
No, this is looking good. Stay with the course as we planned it.
Okay. He's set to run it!
Once El Faro was caught in the storm, she began to flood. The attempt to fix it
I'm gonna turn the ship. Give us a port list so we get a better look at it.
caused a port list that was so extreme, it cut off the oil supply and shut down the main engine.
I think we just lost the plant.
It was impossible to restart.
Damn it!
By the time they realized what had happened, it's already too late.
Bring the abandoned ship.
In those conditions, there's no way to launch one of the lifeboats that they had. The crew knew at that point their odds of survivability were almost zero.
The final moments of the recording are heart-wrenching.
It was extremely emotional to listen to the VDR while watching the clock ticking down to the end.
Help me! You're okay. Come on. Don't freeze up. Jump! Jump!
You good?
Yeah.
There you go, focus.
You gotta get up. Help me! You gotta snap out of it.
You can do this.
Yeah.
Go, go, go.
You can make your way up here. I can't.
The vessel's leaning over so much, I don't think that he can even climb up to get out of the bridge.
They're losing her now.
My feet are slipping. Going down. No, you're not. Come on. You gonna leave me? I'm not gonna leave you. Let's go.
Water is now passing freely down into the lower hold. The vessel is on her port side.
The voices of the captain and the helmsman are the last ones recorded.
I'm a gunner. No, you're not.
The ships continued to go, and there's no stopping it at that point.
In their final reports, the Coast Guard and the NTSB make more than 63 recommendations, including better training about the working of the ship's engines and better crew communication.
I know that changes will be made as a result of these recommendations, and we are seeing some already.
It's coming for the next generation of mariners, the sons, the daughters, people that are still going out there, to learn how we can prevent these accidents from happening to us that work out there. and to other people that rely on us to do this job right.
As a captain, it's one thing to be in charge of everything and be sure of yourself. But it's another thing to also be sure of yourself, to be able to be open to suggestion.
We are at Dames Point at the El Faro Memorial. This lighthouse they had built especially for this memorial. It's a beautiful park. And this is Danielle. So all these rocks were done by family friends in Maine. This is one of my favorite pictures of Danielle. And I had her saying, what she told me just before she left, at sea is where I always want to be.
Coast Guard, we are positively in bad shape.
A cargo ship capsizes in a winter storm, throwing the crew into freezing waters.
It was absolutely undescribably cold.
You have about 1 hour until you become unconscious from hypothermia.
The ship had sailed through raging seas many times before. Why did this voyage end in disaster?
The weather shouldn't have been a problem, so what happened?
Investigators now have a deadly mystery to solve. What they discover is shocking.
Unbelievable.
The Marine Electric was a tragedy that never should have happened.
It's a stormy winter day off the coast of Virginia.
Yeah, copy that. We're on our way.
Captain Philip Coral of the bulk carrier Marine Electric is on what should have been a short run up the coast. But he's just received word a nearby ship is in trouble.
Fishing vessel Theodora is in distress. We gotta go lend a hand.
Roger, Captain.
Gene Kelly was on board as the Marine Electric's third mate.
So they called us and asked if we could turn and go stand by the Theodora. And if they did sink, then you'd go into some type of a rescue attempt. There is the law of the ocean, you don't leave anybody in peril.
The distress call finds the Marine Electric partway through a routine run, carrying nearly 25,000 tons of coal from Norfolk, Virginia, up the Atlantic coast to Somerset, Massachusetts. The 40-year-old vessel is no stranger to bad weather. It was built as a tanker during World War II. After the war, it was converted to carry cargo for commercial shipping.
The Marine Electric had been through heavy seas before. They were confident that she was able to navigate through a tough storm.
The ship's crew is also very experienced. The Marine Electric's captain is a veteran mariner with 4 decades at sea. Chief officer is Bob Cusick. He noticed the position of the Theodora when Marine Electric sailed past.
Now, where were they when you saw them?
They were somewhere around here.
Bob Cusick, friendliest guy you could imagine working for. Made life easy, explained everything, was not overbearing.
The sea was in his blood. He loved the sea from the time he was a little boy. He sailed from the time he was 15 to the time he was 64 or 65.
Based on Cusick's coordinates, Captain Coral will have to turn the ship a full 180 degrees through waves 6 meters high.
Prepare to alter course. Standing by.
Turning means putting the ship temporarily broadside to the enormous ocean waves. If they don't time it perfectly, it could capsize the ship.
Even if it imperils you, it doesn't matter. You have to do whatever it takes to help a fellow mariner.
Now, turn left, standing on 220.
Roger, Captain, turning to 220.
As the ship turns, it cuts across the oncoming waves and shakes violently from side to side. Michael Carr served in the U.S. Merchant Marine. He knows what the crew was facing.
It's like turning around on a freeway with everything coming right at you. It was very dangerous.
Almost there.
When she actually turned, the entire ship shudders. And then the ship comes back down, and it just displaces tons and tons and tons of water at one time.
Just like turning a rowboat, Captain.
Coral times the turn perfectly.
It was neatly done. He seemed really to know what he was doing. He handled the ship well and really put the minds of the officers and crew at ease. They knew that Coral was a pro.
Any sign of the fishing vessel Theodora?
I have a light bearing 2 points on the starboard bow.
2 points off the starboard bow.
They quickly spot the vessel in distress.
Got it.
The 20-meter fishing boat is struggling in the 6-meter seas. It's taking on water, and the pumps that normally remove it aren't working.
Coast Guard, this is Marine Electric. We are at position 37 degrees, 50.1 minutes north. 74 degrees, 53.6 minutes west.
Roger, we copy that. On our way.
Coral reports the ship's position to the Coast Guard and does what he can to help.
Now let's see if we can make a wall.
The massive Marine Electric positions itself so it can shield the fishing boat from the worst of the waves until Coast Guard rescuers arrive.
It was like the Theodora having a wall of steel between her and the rows of swells that were coming in and threatening her.
We get pounded pretty good. We were rolling pretty good, taking a lot of spray over the deck. But it wasn't long before the Coast Guard helicopter was there, dropped the dewatering pumps on, and they got the dewatering pumps up and running.
The Marine Electric protects the Theodora for nearly an hour while it pumps out. With Theodora finally out of danger, the Coast Guard clears the Marine Electric to continue on course for Massachusetts. But the storm is getting worse. The ship is now struggling to make any headway.
You're talking about a fierce nor'easter here. Every time you have a wave, a ship really porpoises through it, really. And the bow may actually be submerged for a little bit in really rough weather.
Ships like the Marine Electric were designed to cut through ocean waves, which wash over the deck and roll off the sides. But the storm has slowed their progress to a crawl.
I am heaving 2. Slow ahead on the engine.
Heaving 2, slow ahead on the engine.
We're gonna have to ride this out.
The captain slows the ship and heaves to, a position that simply holds it in place at the safest angle to the waves. With the storm jeopardizing the ship, the captain catches what sleep he can on the bridge.
He wanted to be woken every 15 minutes and appraised of the situation. Did he have a premonition? I don't know.
Can't see a damn thing.
The
wind was really howling, really howling. She had already cranked up to at least 40, 45 miles an hour. It was really bad. And I went out just to feel the magnitude of the weather. No other reason. I didn't have ships on the radar that I was looking for. I wasn't looking to make a weather report. I just wanted to feel the magnitude of the weather. Quickly, I realized there was no place to stand out there.
Hours pass as the Marine Electric endures lashing rain and heavy seas. With 6-meter waves tossing the ship, there's little sleep for anyone on board.
I remember just staying in the bunk and laying there and maybe dozing here and there for 5 or 10 minutes. It was not a comfortable night.
Then, Third mate Gene Kelly is startled awake.
Somewhere around 1 o'clock that I got a knock on my door.
Rise and shine! Captain wants all deck officers on the bridge!
When my feet hit the deck, I could tell the attitude of the ship had changed.
Kelly's instinct is right.
Coast Guard, this is Marine Electric. I am going down by the head.
Something is very wrong on the Marine Electric. The bow is no longer rising out of the waves.
The forward part of the ship was underwater. The ocean was no longer rising up and boarding the ship and then shipping off the other side. Looking out on this, I knew that this ship was in trouble.
"30 miles off the coast of Virginia, the bulk carrier Marine Electric is struggling to stay afloat in a savage winter storm.
The ship was now having water board all the way back down the deck. It was almost like a waterfall would look. Water just boiling and boiling and boiling.
Get your rope down, come on, let's get it undone! 1, 2, come on, 3!
The waters of the Atlantic Ocean in February are a frigid 4 degrees Celsius. Everyone hopes they won't actually be forced to abandon ship.
Jim it, long! Right, you and me, let's go, we gotta check the other side!
Abandoning ship is the last resort. It basically says we cannot no longer solve the problems in front of us and we need to get off the vessel, which is sometimes even a worse set of circumstances. The water is freezing cold. It's the middle of winter. The wind's howling. I mean, these are huge seas as big as houses. So lifeboats or life rafts are not an improvement over staying on the ship.
Captain Coral has a final, desperate plan to avoid sinking.
Prepare to alter course. I'm going to try to run her aground. Preparing to alter course.
He's less than 50 kilometers from the coast. If he can run the Marine Electric aground, it might keep the ship and its crew above water long enough to be rescued by the Coast Guard.
When I heard that he had turned northwest and was trying to run the ship aground, I thought, that's a pretty drastic move.
They turn for land, but the bow is now completely underwater.
The water was coming back right to the base of the house and just exploding into white water. Hatches were completely covered with ocean water.
And there's another problem.
Coast Guard, this is Marine Electric. I am listing at 8 degrees now.
The water entering the ship is now making it list dramatically. It's now in serious danger of capsizing altogether. The captain calls for rescue.
Coast Guard, you are positively in bad shape.
Roger, we copy that. Estimate to your position, 2 hours.
We don't have 2 hours.
Coast Guard, Marine Electric. I think I'm going to lose my ship here.
It was at that point that reality really hit home. When Phil said, I think I'm going to lose my ship. He was matter of fact. He wasn't screeching into the microphone, I'm losing my ship. It was just a statement.
It just had to have been incredibly tough, but he just obviously saw at one point, we're not going to survive this. And so you have no choice at that point.
Okay, guys, time to go. Sound the alarm. Abandon ship right now. Go! We are abandoning ship right now!
The crew scrambles on deck.
You're sinking. The amount of time you have to take action is very short. You start to grasp the reality that this Mother Nature will wipe you out without even a second thought.
They're trying to board the lifeboat, but the list is swinging it away from the deck.
It looked like it could have been the Grand Canyon. There was no way people were going to jump from the ship into that lifeboat.
Third mate Gene Kelly knows the ship could turn over at any second, taking the lifeboat along with it.
Kelly saw a stack of life rings. And he threw them out into the water, almost as if he were throwing discus.
I had a daughter at home, I had a wife, I had 2 dogs, and I had a good life, and I was not gonna get swallowed up by the ocean.
Moments later, the massive ship begins turning over.
I remember Paul Dewey was reaching over to haul the lifeboat closer to the side of the ship. And it was at that point that I saw Paul reach and tumble over the side. He was the first person that I saw go in the water. And as the ship was rolling, I could hear people screaming and yelling. And I could see the smokestack starting to come down on top of me. I don't know where it came out of. A primeval scream, and it was from my mother. It was, "Ma!"
Kelly is thrown into the freezing water, wearing only a life jacket and the clothes on his back, as the Marine Electric completes its terrifying roll.
It was absolutely undescribably cold. Somebody put you in a vise and turned it as tight as you could. I couldn't catch a breath.
The rest of the crew is scattered around him.
I'm treading water in my life jacket. When I reached the crest of a wave, I could see the strobe lights on all the life jackets. And then you'd be down in the trough of the waves and you might only see 1 or 2 flashes.
The churning ocean is frigid. Unless help arrives soon, none of them will survive.
You have 1 minute to get your breathing under control. You have about 10 minutes of meaningful movement and 1 hour until you might become unconscious from hypothermia.
Drifting alone in the dark, Kelly gets lucky.
I just bumped into something, and it turned out to be 5 other guys holding onto a life ring.
Kelly grabs on, and together they fight for their lives against the deadly effects of the freezing ocean.
The water was excruciatingly cold. The other guys on the life ring, they kept falling off to sleep. I know Richie Roberts was a very quiet death. Because he fell asleep and I said, "Richie, you all right? Richie, Richie." And he didn't respond. In itself, hypothermia is a very violent internal death. Externally, it looked very peaceful and very inviting to go to sleep and just maybe wake up later.
Barely conscious after more than an hour in the water, Kelly hears something overhead. A Coast Guard rescue helicopter.
It looked like the Angel of Mercy come over. I was able to reach out and grab the flashlight, and I started to maneuver it up into the sky. Hopefully somebody would see it at that point.
The helicopter is equipped with a basket to hoist survivors to safety, but it's meant to extract them from lifeboats. Kelly and almost all of the rest of the crew are in the water. The intense cold has left them unable to grab on and pull themselves into it. A Navy helicopter arrives next, and rescue swimmer James McCann plunges in. He's trained to pull survivors from the water.
I swim to the person, grab them by the back of their jacket, don't even check to see if they're alive or dead, and swim over to the basket.
McCann is the sole rescue swimmer on the scene. Only he can pull men directly from the water.
They were pretty much face down in the water. Some of them were head up in the water with no movement whatsoever. They just kind of had the arms limped out here, and the vest was basically holding them up.
McCann braves the deadly seas for nearly an hour, retrieving as many crewmen as he can.
I knew I was going to hypothermia, but I didn't want to quit. Up in the helicopter, the crew chief saw me shaking. He called it. He pulled me in.
In the end, only 3 men survived the freezing waters: able seaman Paul Dewey, chief mate Bob Cusick, and third mate Gene Kelly.
Why me? Why was it me that made it? Who knows? Who knows? But, yeah, my ticket wasn't over for the ride. That's what I keep telling people. Who knows?
The capsizing of the Marine Electric has left 31 men dead. But what caused it remains a mystery. The search for answers will become the most important maritime inquiry in American history.
Everything changed because of the Marine Electric.
Seven hours after it capsized, the Marine Electric finally disappears into the Atlantic. Meanwhile, news of the tragedy has already spread.
When I found out about the Marine Electric, I was in my apartment at school in Amherst, the University of Massachusetts.
Carol Cusick is the daughter of the ship's chief mate, Bob Cusick.
There were 3 or 4 feet of snow fell that night. And so our phone lines were down. There was a knock on the door, and my friend opened it, and there was a state policeman there. And he said, "Carol, your father's one of the survivors." And I said, "Survivors of what?" And he said, "Your father's ship sank." And I just sort of collapsed into my friend's arms and started sobbing. It was a shock.
31 members of the Marine Electric's crew of 34 are dead, including Captain Philip Coral.
To the maritime community, the shock of the loss of the men, many of whom died of hypothermia in those very cold seas. It was a huge thing.
Why did the Marine Electric, a ship that had sailed through rough seas for nearly 40 years, capsize and sink to the bottom of the Atlantic?
Look here. Let's see where we are on this.
In Portsmouth, Virginia, the U.S. Coast Guard immediately convenes a Marine board to investigate the disaster. Captain Peter Lauritsen is in charge.
The Coast Guard has the authority to investigate marine casualties. The Coast Guard office sent investigators out immediately, and so they were gathering information, and they were feeding it to us.
Hey, nice to see you again. Hey, welcome aboard.
Because of the serious nature of the accident, the National Transportation Safety Board joins the inquiry.
If there's more than 6 deaths, they automatically had a responsibility to investigate also.
Okay, let's talk about the areas of interest.
The weather seems like an obvious factor, but Lauritsen suspects it won't completely explain the disaster.
The weather shouldn't have been a problem with a vessel that was operating normally. So, what happened?
The inquiry will consider everything from the ship's structural integrity to human error. So Lauritsen needs to see every scrap of information he can get.
We're gonna need the survey, the records, and manifest. Okay. Got it. Everything that you got. Okay?
Divers survey the wreck and discover the hull in several large pieces on the seafloor, presenting Lauritsen his first possible cause: its cargo of nearly 25,000 tons of coal. The heavy cargoes that bulk carriers contain have to be loaded in just the right way, or it can put a huge strain on the ship's structure and even break it in half.
If you load the holds in the wrong sequence, if you load too much in one hold and not enough in another hold, you can have situations where the ship will literally break apart.
Lauritsen wonders if the crew made a deadly loading error before they ever left port.
All good? As always.
Yeah.
The sequence is important so you don't overstress the vessel.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Okay, so let's take a look at the loading sequence here and let's take a look at the weights.
Lauritsen checks the crew's loading records, but there's no sign they made any mistakes.
Number 2.
The cargo wasn't too heavy, and the holds were loaded in the correct order to avoid straining the ship.
1. That's the sequence of the loading.
It was a normal loading process, so we know now the vessel was not overstressed beyond the capability of the ship to handle it.
Meanwhile, the ship's owner, Marine Transport Lines, goes public with its theory about what went wrong.
In all accidents, you're going to get all sorts of theories. You're going to have all sorts of interests protecting their own interests.
Fishing vessel Theodora is in distress. We gotta go lend a hand. Where were they when you saw them?
Around here.
The company suspects the ship strayed into shallow water and damaged the hull when they diverted to help the Theodora.
The theory that the company came up with is that when we went to the Theodora, we got ourselves into too shallow a water and we pounded the bottom.
Okay, let's hear what we got.
The Coast Guard listens to recordings of the captain's radio calls, relaying the Marine Electric's position during the Theodora rescue to verify if the theory is true. They listen carefully as the captain reports his position.
Coast Guard, this is Marine Electric. We are at position
37 degrees, 50.1 minutes north. 74 degrees.
53.6 minutes west.
And then check that position on the navigation chart.
53.6 minutes west.
West.
There's no sign the captain steered the ship into trouble.
They were in good water.
The survivors tell the same story. They didn't hear or feel anything indicating they had run aground.
Take a hammer and hit the roof of your house and does a person in the cellar hear it? Sure they do. Had we heard that noise, we would have been searching for any breaches in the hull, flooding, etc.
They had solid witnesses that they had their positions marked, they knew where they were, and they didn't hit bottom.
Lauritsen and his team will have to find another theory to explain why the Marine Electric went down, taking 31 men along with it. The inquiry into the sinking of the Marine Electric has little physical evidence to work with. The ship is at the bottom of the Atlantic. But they do have the captain's radio calls to the Coast Guard. They're hoping the tapes might offer a clue to what caused the disaster.
Coast Guard, this is Marine Electric. I am listing at 8 degrees now.
It's clear the ship lost stability fast and was on the verge of sinking by the time the captain gave the order to abandon ship.
He seemed to recognize, I would say at the correct time, we got to get off this ship, we got to abandon ship. He made the right decision.
I'm going down by the head. I seem to be taking on water forward.
Stop it. Play that back.
I'm going down by the head.
I seem to be taking on water forward.
Flooding down by the bow.
The captain told the Coast Guard he thought he had flooding in the bow.
Rise and shine! Captain wants all deck officers on the bridge!
If he was right, it would explain the ship sloping toward the bow the way Third Mate Gene Kelly remembers.
I'd been on enough ships that my senses told me that there was something different. I could feel the bow was down a bit, so it was noticeable.
But what caused the flooding in the first place? At the Marine Board of Investigation hearing, the ship's owners present another shocking explanation. Bulk carriers like the Marine Electric have massive cargo hatches. In their testimony, The company says the crew failed to secure a hatch in the forward part of the ship.
Hatches are supposed to be watertight. There's a big difference between watertight versus weathertight. Watertight is water under pressure. Weathertight is just the rain.
It's Seamanship 101. If a hatch isn't fastened watertight, the cargo compartment could flood in heavy seas. It might account for the low bow the captain reported before the Marine Electric sank. But one of the survivors, Chief Mate Bob Cusick, was in charge of the loading process, and he knows the crew did nothing wrong. Cusick prepares to testify before the inquiry. He has his own theory about why the Marine Electric went down, and he has no intention of letting his fellow mariners take the blame.
There was a great deal of mutual respect. They were a team. A lot of them had been on this ship for a long time, and he always said they were like a band of brothers.
But Cusick faces an uphill battle.
A maritime board of inquiry, in the old days, they certainly didn't have smiles on their faces. It wasn't a friendly conversation.
The chief mate recounts his harrowing story of survival after falling from the deck into the sea along with the crew.
He could see the hull of the ship. He actually swam past his cabin window, which was still lit, but now it was underwater, and he peered into his cabin window. And then came up, broke the surface, looked around, and saw nothing.
Court sketches capture his story.
I kept swimming. I could hear cries. All sorts of groans and cries. And then the miraculous part about it, as you've heard, is my running across a lifeboat. And then I waited and prayed for the daylight to come. All the time I kept yelling out, lifeboat here, come here, lifeboat here. Maybe that someone was there that could come over and I could drag them in.
It's an emotional account, but it's only the beginning. Cusick goes on to present a compelling new explanation for the sinking of the Marine Electric.
He was an honest man, he was an honorable man, and there's no way that he was going to betray the memories of his shipmates by lying about that ship.
Cusick confirms the shipping company's charge that the massive hatches weren't secure, but says the company, not the crew, is to blame.
Not all the hatches were 100% secured, because some of them just were not mechanically usable.
For years, Cusick has kept meticulous records of the ship's slow deterioration and presents them to the inquiry.
My father knew that ship inside and out, and he wasn't afraid to tell the truth.
Bob knew the ills of the ship. He had lists of shipyard jobs that were not done because of budgetary cuts. The hatches on that ship were old, warped, and cracked, didn't fit properly, were supposed to have been repaired in the last shipyard period, but they were always in bad shape. And Bob had drawings of hatches that needed to be repaired. He had that in his files at home.
His testimony drives the inquiry to dig deep into the ship's maintenance history, where they will find one of the shipping industry's darkest secrets.
The Marine Electric was a tragedy that never should have happened.
Unbelievable. Thank you.
The Marine Board pores over box after box of the Marine Electric's repair records, searching for evidence to back up Chief Mate Bob Cusick's claims of negligence by the ship's owners.
Cusick's records, he gave us several leads.
You're going to go back to the company and say, I want all your invoices for all the repairs you've done. We want to see everything you did or did not approve. You're going to match up invoices to what was said by witnesses, by what maybe you said in past shipyards. You're going to go back to past shipyards, maybe even 2-3 years to find out, especially on Marine Electric. I'd go back at least 3 years.
The inquiry catches a lucky break. One of the ship's hatch covers was replaced just 3 months before the disaster. They track down the discarded hatch in a construction yard and analyze its condition. What they find is alarming.
It was paper-thin to 75% wastage, and the supporting structure was just as deteriorated.
The company had waited until it was nearly crumbling to replace it. Cusick had testified that the company ordered repairs to the hatches and deck be done using second-rate materials, including an epoxy known as Red Hand, which is meant to be a temporary fix. It's not watertight long-term, and not nearly as strong as steel. The worn-out hatch cover backs up his claim.
The Red Hand was used to fill cracks, and the ship had hundreds of them on the deck, on the sides of the hatches, on the hatch cover panels themselves. They were everywhere.
If you walked on the hatch covers, you stood a really good chance of falling through. These hatch covers are supposed to be built to keep tons of seawater out. And there were holes in the deck that were circled so that people didn't trip over them.
It always comes back to money, doesn't it? So we'll weld a plate over that hole, and it'll keep us going. We'll get the repairs later, next time we're in dry dock.
Most revealing in the company records is the note of another critically degraded surface, the dry cargo hatch. It's located at the bow, which was often submerged as the ship cut through the high waves.
Coast Guard, this is Marine Electric. I seem to be taking on water forward.
Makes sense, down by the bow.
It's the missing piece of the puzzle. Investigators now have a clear picture of the sequence of events that led to the tragedy.
Can't see a damn thing.
The serious flooding started somewhere in that early evening watch.
Waves breaking over the bow poured through the compromised dry cargo hatch and deck plating.
And so spaces that shouldn't have had water filled with water.
The massive weight of water collecting in the bow then began to drag it down, exposing the enormous hatch covers behind to the raging ocean.
The hatch covers started being hit by thousands of tons of water.
The waves poured through the degraded hatch covers and began collecting inside the hatches.
Coast Guard, I'm going down by the head.
The hatches were being completely covered by water.
The rapidly flooding ship became more and more unstable and started listing to one side.
Once that happened, the vessel was lost.
Abandon ship right now! Go! You're abandoning ship right now!
The inquiry now knows the Marine Electric was a ticking time bomb of shoddy repairs. Yet somehow it passed inspections in February 1981 and June 1982, just 7 months before the disaster.
"30 minutes for an inspection? Unbelievable."
Records from the Coast Guard and the American Bureau of Shipping reveal shocking signs of rushed inspections and skipped steps.
The American Bureau of Shipping is the private agency that is supposed to survey the hull and show that that's safe.
It should have almost taken days. Every hatch cover, every watertight opening, every weathertight opening should have been surveyed.
There was one crack in the deck. They had spray painted a circle around it, and then Coast Guard inspectors stepped over it without making any comment.
The Marine Board finds both the American Bureau of Shipping and the Coast Guard responsible for improper inspections and failing to acknowledge apparent damage on board the Marine Electric. Incredibly, during the 40-year-old ship's last inspection, the clearly deteriorated hatch covers weren't even tested to see if they could keep out the rain, a procedure typically performed with a fire hose.
For a ship this old and the conditions of the hatches, to not conduct a hose test when it's in the yard, the best I can say is negligent at best.
Unbelievable.
investigators discover that inspectors from both agencies missed blatant evidence of poor maintenance.
It's just amazing that a ship this age, this condition, did not get the scrutiny from the regulatory agencies that it should have gotten.
One of the problems with any sort of regulation is it gets very easy to have your standards slowly drop. The American Bureau of Shipping and the Coast Guard simply got sloppy.
But with dozens of other World War II-era bulk carriers still in service, the Coast Guard will need to move fast to prevent a similar tragedy before it happens again. The inquiry into the Marine Electric tragedy not only investigates why the ship capsized, but also asks why the Coast Guard was unable to save more than 3 of the 34 men who went into the water. A Coast Guard helicopter was first on the scene, but tragically, the chopper and crew weren't equipped for the task.
So a Coast Guard crew at this time has a big helicopter that can land on water if the seas are flat enough, and a rescue basket. Those are their tools to get people from in trouble to out of trouble.
But during the Marine Electric disaster, the raging seas made landing impossible, and the frigid water had rendered the survivors helpless.
During the Marine Electric case, the basket went down to people who couldn't climb into it, and now they're just guys in a helicopter turning fuel into noise and watching people not make it.
The Coast Guard hovered helplessly for 45 minutes until a Navy helicopter arrived with a rescue swimmer.
The Navy had to have rescue swimmers to pick up downed aviators, and here they were being used on professional mariners, and it worked. So the Congress directed that the Coast Guard stand up a rescue swimmer program so people could enter the water and assist victims who couldn't help themselves.
In 1984, the year following the tragedy, the Coast Guard established its Rescue Swimmer School based in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Today, it's the standard by which all other maritime rescue training programs are measured. The facility can create realistic storm conditions, complete with lightning and high waves, to test a trainee's ability to remain calm and focused in rescue situations. Petty Officer John DeSalle is one of the school's instructors.
This is a fantastic training facility. We're trying to have the situational awareness, the attention to detail to go out there and deploy alone, because once you leave that helicopter, it's up to you and you only to help.
We'll sound off each lap. You understand?
The program is physically and mentally grueling. Of the approximately 75 candidates who sign up each year, on average, less than 50% will graduate.
Now they look at these kids coming out of here as the Swiss Army knife. They've gone through twice the physical training I went through. They are a honed professional athlete.
As of 2017, the Coast Guard estimates its rescue swimmers have saved more than 21,000 lives.
It's that motto, so others may live, you know? It's not so I can go home too. It's so others may live. I'm gonna go down there and I'm bringing some people home, or I'm gonna die trying.
The Coast Guard's final report on the Marine Electric disaster brings historic changes to the shipping industry as well. Beginning in 1984, ships are now required to provide an immersion suit for each merchant marine sailing in cold waters. Wearing one can delay the onset of hypothermia by up to 6 hours.
I taught ocean survival, and when we would get to the point in the course where we're gonna learn how to use immersion suits, I would always start out by going, okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you a story about the Marine Electric and all these mariners that died, and the fact that, I was getting emotional, that you guys are lucky because you have immersion suits now, because these guys died and they didn't have them.
The Marine Board's recommendations also lead to stricter inspection regulations and greater oversight by the Coast Guard and the American Bureau of Shipping.
Marine Electric was an old bulk carrier that they'd let get away from themselves in terms of maintaining, particularly the hatch covers and the main deck.
There was lip service given to safety. There were caps that said Marine Transport Line safety first. But the culture was not like that. The culture was to ignore the holes in the hatches, ignore the holes in the hull. Just one more run, and we're going to have a new ship. But then there was always one more run.
The company failed, the Coast Guard failed, ABS failed, all this stuff was happening, and people had responsibility. And Cusick gave us the key to it.
Through that targeting, they were able to force more than 90 old World War II type ships out of service.
For Bob Cusick, who died in 2013, the sweeping changes brought at least some relief from his painful memories of the disaster.
I've often thought about how many lives my father helped to save, and I think knowing that so many of these ships were taken off the seas because of his testimony, I think that did help my father get over some of his survivor's guilt.
The legacy of the Marine Electric was one of the greatest reform efforts in American maritime history.
We honor the 31 that were lost. We couldn't do anything about the loss of the vessel, but we made sure that their loss was a lesson learned.